What's going on, YouTube? I appreciate you for being here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We got the Facebook, we got the YouTube, and today I printed this out. You know me with the printer. I'm not very high tech, but I get it popping. You got Donald J. Trump right here, and you have Dr. Anthony Fauci right here. And I kind of want to make my pitch for why I think they've created their own religions. I don't think they've meant to. I don't think it's purposeful for either of them, but I've seen it flirt on the lines of I like them, I love them, versus just straight up idolatry, which is the biblical term. I think idolatry means the worship of an idol or cult image being a physical image or a person in place of God, where, you know, I'll make my case for it now. And I know some people might get upset. If you love Anthony Fauci, you might tune in and say, I don't think he's a God. It's like, okay, well, maybe I'm not talking to you then. You know, obviously everyone has their own perspective and a lot are valid, but I'm going to make my case for that. And then of course for Trump, which I know a lot of people will understand and be like, man, I've seen that happening too. Like I voted for him, but this is getting a little weird. And then there's going to be people, of course, who are going to be like, no, that's not true. No. And then, you know, you're going to have a little bit of each of them. So it should be fun. Appreciate you guys for being here. And I'm always grateful. Thank you for tuning in. I got a little bit of coffee. Don't mind if I do. And if you want to stick around to the end, you know, I'll answer a few questions and we could talk about other stuff. I know some Hunter Biden stuff dropped. I mean, there's like Macron got slapped. Joe Biden and Kamala are being goofy as normal. So I don't know. Some people are interested in that. And I know that might get more clicks and more views, but, you know, I could weigh in on that a little bit. There's the Bitcoin stuff and all that, but I want to get to the core of something that I see kind of taking over. So what's up, Valerie? Let's see who we got. Alex, thank you so much. Am I live? I am live, Alex. What's going on? You're live. I'm live. We're here together. Someone said, I think Fauci thinks he's a god, said Tammy. We'll read some questions as people are coming in. Someone said, I'm going to go trans and then I'm going to run for president. I don't think you're serious, but if you are, you know, good luck. Judge Joe Brown on Alex Jones. That sounds epic and hilarious. I saw Judge Joe Brown talk to Kwame Brown and he was pretty based. I can't repeat what he said because then they'll call me a racist, but Judge Joe Brown was crushing it on his live stream with Kwame Brown. What's up, Larissa? What's up, Albert? What's up, Marla? All right, let's get it popping. I mean, before we start, I'll just mention, because I know people might, there were some texts that came off, or I don't know, about something about Hunter Biden, and he's dropping the N-word all the time. And, you know, I've seen that all over Twitter. Everybody's going to say racist. It's like, I don't know if he's a racist as much as he probably was doing a lot of drugs, but, you know, I think that's going to be quite the spectacle for a while. And I get, you know, the perspective, everyone will say, well, if that was Don Jr., you know, Don Jr. would be in a lot of trouble. And it is true. I think there's double standards. If Don Jr. said that, you know, it'd be they'd ask the president a million times about it. But if Joe Biden's son does it, they're probably not even going to ask about it. So I do think there are double standards. I know a lot of people might care about that, but that's going to be interesting to see how to get through that. Because it's one thing to see that it's happening, but I feel like the right is always like, oh man, if that were us. And you know, I don't have the answer right now and I'm not really prepared for it, but that's something to think about, is how to counter that narrative. Because it's like with the media and with the pressure that they're able to put on, you know, I think it is interesting. And I don't have the answer for that right now, but someone said Anomaly voted for Biden. No, that's not true. I'm glad you brought that up because I'm going to get into my thing. You know, this binary, because this is a lot of what I'm going to say too, is this binary thinking where it's like, if you vote for Biden, that's not my thing. I didn't vote for Biden. But if you vote for Trump, this thinking of like, okay, if you voted for Trump, you have to agree with everything he said. You have to go to every rally. You have to get in line with every single thing that the Republican Party does. And if you question one thing, if you say, I don't agree with Operation Warp Speed. You know what? I don't like the fact that the Republicans printed trillions of dollars. I don't like the speech bills. What did you vote for Biden? I've heard that 100 times over the past month or two. And I'm not going to get upset, but it's like, this is like, it reminds me of like programming. You know, they say, oh, you're brainwashed. I'm not going to call people brainwashed, but you know, it's like, if your first thought, if I'm like, hey, I voted for Trump, I did 100 videos while I supported him for a while, but this is how I feel about this. Oh, what are you, a Biden voter? This is the two-party trap. Oh, what did you vote for, Romney? Or did you vote for Bush? Did you vote for Bush or did you vote for McCain? Oh, you're an Obama supporter. Who'd you vote? It's like Trump came in and he was kind of fresh, but at the same time, there's more thought processes that you're allowed to have and that I'm allowed to have than either you're everything Trump, and if you disagree on one thing, you must be a Biden voter. Throw them to the curb. And it's, you know, it's an ineffective strategy because, you know, the right wing has gained a lot of momentum because the left, if you disagree with the left, they freak out and they throw you to the right. They're like, oh, what are you, a far right conspiracy theorist? What do you work out? What do you care about human trafficking? You must be a right wing. And it's like, you say that enough and you send people to the right wing. So if you want people to vote for Trump, the worst thing you could do is take somebody who voted for Trump and say, who do you like, Biden? Because if I was a soft, emotional person, eventually I'd be like, you know what? Fine, I'm going to go join that team. But they're so annoying to me that I never would do that. But anyway, I'm glad you brought that up because it kind of plays into what I'm saying, where it's like, oh my God, you must be a Biden supporter. It's like, that's not how politics works. And the more people do that, the more you're going to get tricked. So idolatry, I'm not talking about like the modern definition. I'm talking about the ancient definition. Idolatry is the worship of an idol or cult image, such as a statue or a person in place of God. And it was always known as very blasphemous and sacrilegious, because if you're a religious person and you believe in God, you're supposed to believe in God above all. You're not supposed to put a human being, whether it's myself, whether it's Trump, whether it's Fauci, whether it's Brad Pitt, whether it's Steve McNair, or, a football player, whatever. You're really not supposed to idolize and worship a human like a god. And you see that in all walks of life. You see that in the movie theaters. These people, no offense, but a lot of them are huge losers. They're totally like stuck up. They're not as big or strong as they look on TV, but people are like, oh my God, that guy fought a zombie. It's like, oh my God, he's my idol. It's like, he didn't really fight a zombie. Guys, it's just television. Like, this dude's 5'5". No offense to your height. I'm just saying he looks like he's 6'5". He's fighting Godzilla. You're like that. I'm like, dude, that guy didn't fight Godzilla. That guy pretended to fight Godzilla. He can't really fight. Why is he walking around with security? Because he's not really that tough. He's not. It's a movie. It's fake, but it's okay to like an actor. But people idolize actors like more than anyone else. And they're already people who pretend to be people. That's what they do. They pretend to be people. And on that note, my one friend once told me that politics is ugly Hollywood. They said that politics is really like the people who are too ugly for Hollywood. They just get into politics. And if you think about that, it does seem to be true. I'm not going to say someone's ugly because I think all of God's children are beautiful, but I'm not saying she's ugly. I'm just saying Kamala Harris is like an actor who can't act. It's like you think if Kamala Harris was in Hollywood and there's 100 Kamala Harrises going for a role in a, L'Oreal commercial, Kamala Harris is not going to get the role. She's not a good actor. So it's like Hollywood is, politics is like actors for, actors who can't act, and they weren't, good enough to be in actual Hollywood. But anyway, you shouldn't idolize a actor, and you shouldn't idolize a politician, but that's what idolatry means, just to, bipartisan, get that out of the way. And people do it with musicians. Oh my God, Rihanna. It's like, you can like them, you can love them, but once you think they're a god, most of them are just actors, and politicians are bad actors. You should know they're acting. But on that note, two people who have, and I know this is going to upset some people, because you might see somebody on here that you like, probably most people here will like Trump. Some people might like Fauci. I'm not sure. Probably people who like Fauci don't watch me, but these people have formed literal religions. And I'm going to prove that today without even probably trying to. And people get so mad when you point it out. We'll start with Fauci because I think it's more digestible to most of my audience. Dr. Anthony Fauci, everybody says that idolizes him. He's a scientist. Oh my gosh, he's a scientist. And it's like, yeah, but he's also been in government for 50, 60 years. So for instance, John McCain, rest in peace. John McCain was a war hero, but at a certain point he became a politician. And at a certain point he was in politics for so long, his role was really a politician. You don't have to agree with John McCain when it comes to war policy. I don't. And you don't have to be in the military. There's people in the military who disagree with John McCain. There's people in the military who agree with John McCain. There's people who really understand geopolitics who like what he did. There's people who understand it who didn't. You don't have to agree with John McCain just because he was a war hero. And you don't have to agree with Dr. Anthony Fauci just because he was once a doctor and he's recently been a heavy government bureaucrat, more so than I would say he was in the lab. In fact, Nobel Prize winners that I read and I research were not fans of his. They were like, yeah, he's more of a government guy. But the point I'm getting to is, people, the first thing, this has become a religion because it's like, you can't question Allah and you can't question Dr. Anthony Fauci. He's the Allah of the left. Like, you can't even disagree with him. The irony, of course, there is he disagrees with himself all the time. So if science never settles, Anthony Fauci sure is not settling. I don't know, he thinks this, then he thinks this. He proves time and time again that one, he's not really that honest in my opinion, but two, science is not settled and it's not a consensus. They always say it's a consensus. If Fauci says it and all the government doctors say it, it's a consensus. How do you think they invented the PCR test? It was not every scientist in the world came to the convention and said, we now put our brains together and we're all going to invent something new. That's not how science works. It was Carrie Mullis who, to be honest, was doing LSD. I know that because I read his book. I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying he was doing LSD. Anyway, he came with this crazy idea and he invented the PCR test, not by going along with all of the scientists, but by going against the grain. So this idea that science is a religion, a lot of Christians have been privy to this for a while, and I'm sure a lot of Muslims as well and other religions, that, the science that liberals and the media has been pitching is not really science at all. It's not experimental. There is no hypothesis. There is no competition and debate and discussion. It's like a total lie. It's just like they push a narrative. They say you can't agree with it. They disagree with themselves 5 years later. They're constantly wrong. You can't question them. And then when they mess up, they finally admit that science is not settled. You're allowed to change your mind. That's what Fauci said. So he's allowed to change his mind, but you can't disagree with him when he always changes his mind. It's become a religion. They've replaced religion. They've replaced Christianity in a lot of schools with the religion of science, not the experimentation science that we once knew. Just like journalism used to be journalism. When you go to journalism school, you're supposed to learn bipartisanship, how to be objective. I would say I'm not a journalist, but I do better journalism than most people because I try to be fair. I try to be honest. I do my best and I don't even have to. I could just say whatever I want. When you're a journalist, you're writing articles, that's the profession. It's not an opinion piece about how your feelings are hurt and you hate Trump. You're supposed to tell the story from both sides. But, they basically made a religion out of this guy and say you can't disagree with him. No matter who you are, you must, obey Fauci. And before I move on to Trump, which is going to bother some people, I seriously think if Fauci said, take your 3 fingers and stick, I'm not going to say it, sometimes there's kids watching, but do this, take it. Honestly, if he said, if your kids are watching, you got to monitor your kids. You got to know anomaly. He could be anywhere from G, PG, PG-13. Sometimes I even get R-rated because it gets crazy out here in these streets, but you got to monitor your kids. Anyway, I'm going to have to say this because it's funny. I think if Fauci said, hey, you should stick a telephone pole up your rear, I think you'd see a lot of liberals out in the street looking at the telephone pole, sizing it up, trying to figure out how to stick it up there because it'll protect from, that's the level I think Fauci's at. Wear a mask, wear 2 masks, don't wear one at all, wear 3, get your jab, get what. It's like they're just running in circles. Like, I'll do whatever this guy. It's a religion. It's not science. It's idol worship. It's like putting this man above God, and that's idolatry. And it's getting very toxic for politics, very toxic for science, very toxic for liberalism, and very toxic for the country because people have their heads so far up his that they can't even see straight anymore, even though I just debunked their whole religion in 5 minutes about how it's not as settled, how he doesn't say it's settled, but they keep falling for it because you're not thinking clearly when you create a religion around a human and idolize a human being like he's God. You want to upset, not all. And the interesting part before I move on to Trump is the liberals who are fair. I have progressive Bernie friends who love what I'm doing. They're like totally outside the system. It's them who say, Anomaly has a point. It's not me. Maybe I like him a little bit. Maybe I don't. But people do that. I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about everybody. But there are people who idolize Fauci. It's the people who idolize him and who idolize Trump, I'm going to get to, who get mad at me. It's like there's millions of people who like Trump who are like, you know what? It is true. I do know some people who idolize Trump. But it's the people who idolize him who get really mad. They're like, Anomaly, I don't know. And I'm like, I never said everybody. I just said some people. And it's the ones, it's always the ironic, the ones who freak out are the ones who are guilty. It's like, I'm not blaming you, but you come out of the woodworks all mad because it strikes a chord. I'm going to read my tweet. I posted it on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I don't even read the comments, but I do get messages. And I did see most people agreed. Some people got upset. I don't care. But here's what I wrote. I didn't say everybody. I said a lot of the left idolizes Fauci like a god. A lot of the right idolizes Trump like Christ. Idolatry is ruining our country, and the hate for the other side makes both sides easy to fool. I mean, I'm biased because I wrote it, but I think it's a pretty solid tweet. It's like people are so into it, they become easy to trick because it becomes like an emotional worship over a smart decision. And it's funny. I got like 20 people who were like, no, that's a good point. And some people wrote me paragraphs like, I love the guy. He fought for our country. And I'm like, That's what I'm talking about. I'm not blaming. I'm not even talking about you. But the fact that you respond like that just tells me that you probably do idolize him. On that note, I'm going to start with the most obvious idol worship of Trump, and I'm going to say, obviously I'm one person, this is my opinion. I'm going to say people have created a completely anti-Christian religion around Trump that is like totally blasphemous, totally idolatry, and just totally crazy. And it's the people who were into Q who now are into these theories where like, and I thought this was like dying out, and I don't care. People can believe what they want. But I'm starting to realize more and more people are really believing this. A lot of millennials, a lot of boomers are falling for this stuff where they love Trump so much that they think that he's still the president. They're like, Biden never got sworn in. Okay, trust me, I'm out there. Okay, I can believe a lot of stuff. There's a lot of theories and ideas I have that people think are crazy. So I'm not one to mock somebody for a dumb idea. I'll consider anything. So I'm like, you think Trump's still the president? Yeah. Okay, what's going on? Well, Biden never got sworn in. Okay, so Trump's still the president. And then they keep saying, well, the military's in control. I'm like, what do you mean by that? Because the military, if George Bush says to go to Afghanistan, the military goes to Afghanistan. If Obama says go to Syria and go to Libya, the military goes to Syria and Libya. If Trump is in control and he says stop going to Libya, they stop going to Libya. So this idea that the military is in control, I don't know what that means, because I have friends in the military, and there's two things that are happening. One is they're trying to basically take away freedom from military members if you're not vaccinated. So if you don't get the vaccine, they're taking away a lot of freedom. You can't leave the base. You can't go to the gym. You can't do this. You can't do that. So they're basically trying, in my opinion, to do one of two things: either get you forced vaccinated or make you quit or suffer so you do or leave. And in that way, I think that they're weeding out conservatives. So this idea that the military is in control of the country. Meanwhile, Democrats and people who are not conservative are at the heads of the military, and they're kind of ousting conservatives out of the military with their double standard policies on Marxism versus being a conservative, on their double standard vaccine policies. So not only is the military not in control, but they need help, but there's no one to help because these Q type worshipers are trying to just pretend like they're going to be saved by the military when the military is just in the hands of whoever is the president or running it. So the point I'm getting is I've had dozens of people, I'm talking dozens, it's not a small thing. They keep telling me that Trump is going to return. And it reminds me of the Bible when they say Christ is going to return. You know, it's like, he's going to return. When's he going to return? He's going to return on the 6th. He's going to return on the 20th. He's going to return on March. He's going to return on May. He's going to return in August. He's going to return next year. The audit's going to go through, and then he's going to be the president. He's already the president. He just has to show up at the White House. And then it's like, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, listen, I voted for Trump, but is Christ going to return or is Trump going to return? Like, these people have created their own satanic inverted religion that is completely blasphemous to replace Christ with Trump and think that Trump's going to come back and save their whole world. Where I'm like, the craziest part about that religion, in my opinion, is that these people have become pathological liars. If you make up a theory, this used to happen in the Christian church all the time. Christ is going to return in December. These pastors were lying their behinds off all the time. They'd always be like, Christ is coming back in March. Christ is coming back in June. And how many pastors have told you lies and told you, oh my God, he's going to return, and he never returns? Do these pastors ever apologize? I don't know if I ever see them apologize, but I don't pay attention. That reminds me of the Q people. They've replaced the crappy pastor who pretends like Christ's going to return all the time, and they're prophets, false prophets, which, by the way, the Bible speaks very negatively about. Don't be a false prophet. Watch out for false prophets. Don't idolatry. Watch out for liars who pretend like they're going to supersede the Bible with their fake prophecies. And there's a lot of pastors who do that. Now you have these Q, decoders, the military's in control guys, who are false prophets who tell people every other month that Trump is going to come back to the White House. And every time they're wrong, Mike, the craziest thing to me is like, okay, you said I follow a lot of these people, not like for sport, but just to kind of laugh at, no offense. And I've seen people say Biden was going to be arrested on the 20th. Trump was going to come back on the 6th. All the pedophiles were going to get arrested on the 20th. Trump was going to end up in the White House. He's going to come back in March. There's one account that I saw that said, if Trump doesn't come back in March, I'm done. Okay, that's how confident he was. He was selling his audience on trust. You trust me, right? I'm the trustworthy, Trump, the military's in control guy. If Trump doesn't come back in March, I'm done with. And then March rolls around and April rolls around. he doesn't even like, and then those people get mad that you know that they did that. It's like they say he's coming back, they're wrong. You just point out, you're like, man, remember when you said that? I never said that. Who are you working for? No, he's going to return. It's like, yo, it's one thing to like him. It's one thing to vote for him. It's become a false satanic religion that they've replaced Trump with Christ. They're constantly making false predictions like bad pastors. And they're selling people on this idea that he's going to come back. And why it's so toxic, in my opinion, is I'm a millennial. So I'm speaking to my own generation, and I'm going to speak to boomers as well. But the most people who are falling for this stuff are boomers and millennials. And I really think it's like a psychology sort of thing where we messed up a lot as a country. Listen, I love America. I love the world. I love Christians. I like everybody, but I'm a little biased. I like my country the most. No offense. We messed up. Okay. There's a lot of ways we dropped the ball. We dropped the ball in education. We dropped the ball in politics. We dropped the ball with taxes. We dropped the ball with freedom. We dropped the ball with the Constitution. We dropped the ball with the culture and music. I mean, we really got outplayed for the last 30, 40, 50 years by Marxists and people with agendas of violence and stuff like that. So it's really what we have to do as millennials and boomers is look at what happened and be like, okay, we messed up and now it's time for us to correct what we did. There is no easy path. They always say hard times create strong men. This is like after World War II. Strong men create good times, Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times. Hard times create strong men. We had hard times. They created, good times. And during the good times, we dropped the ball. This is human nature. It's not, you don't have to kick yourself over it. But, when there's good times, a lot of times you let your guard down. We let our guard down and we got completely, obliterated for it. And now I think we're starting to suffer for it through the lockdowns and stuff. So the point I'm getting to is, what boomers and millennials should do is identify that we screwed up and be like, okay, now we have to make it right. There isn't going to be an easy path. If you're religious, look to Christ. If you're Muslim, you could look to your God. If you're some other religion, like that's on you. I don't preach religion here and I don't judge others. But the point I'm getting to is outside of that, end date in America, there is no secret fantasy fairy tale that's going to magically save you. Like if you want to save your country, you're going to have to do it through correcting your wrongs. But the whole Q boomer stuff to me is like people, instead of realizing that they screwed up so much, thinking the military's, that's idolatry. No, Christ isn't going to save you. The military is going to save you. Oh no, Christ isn't going to save you. Trump's going to save you. He's going to rise again like Christ. It's like, it's a whole satanic religion based off of boomers and millennials who don't want to admit that they screwed up for 40 years and want to take the easy way out. They want to believe that some sort of human idol or human entity is going to save the day and arrest everybody that they hate because they're too lazy, weak, or, scared to do anything themselves. And I'm not trying to be rude, but I think that's the whole basis of the whole, well, he's secretly the president. It's like you can't cope with the fact that he lost the election, whether you think it was fair or not. You can't cope with the fact he locked down. You can't cope with the fact that he did Operation Warp Speed. You can't cope with the fact that the Republican Party printed trillions of dollars. You can't cope with the fact that you were hoping and I was hoping that he arrested a bunch of pedophiles, but in reality, he just pardoned a group of people that was not so great. Didn't really do that much on his way out and ended up selling vaccines for Moderna and Pfizer. I'm not saying you have to hate him. I'm not saying you can't vote for him. I'm not saying you can't appreciate what he did do. But the whole movement of the military's in control. Trump's going to rise again. He's my idol. He's going to save my life. The military's secretly running the shadow government. Biden never signed in. He's not there. It's really just a cope saying, I'm too scared. I'm too weak. I'm too afraid. And I'm too complacent to actually face up and fess up to what happened and deal with it like a man or a woman or a strong person. It's like the whole thing relies around that. And it's turned a bunch of good people, a bunch of good Christians, a bunch of good Trump supporters into pathological liars and idolaters who just constantly make up fake theories, lash out when you say that they're fake. And instead of telling people to do something to save their country themselves, telling them that they could just sit there and watch these other people magically do it. Like it's like combining like a movie that is fake with reality. It's like Pokemon for adults. Like, Pokemon's fake. You play it as an escape from real life. Well, what if we took that escape from real life and we turned it into a real life live action role play where we're secretly doing something? But it's like, how are you fighting the pedophiles when you constantly go live and make up fake theories about Trump returning? How does that help human trafficking? How does that save the kids? It doesn't. You're using human trafficking to get a foot in the door and tell everybody, hey guys, I'm fighting human trafficking. And everyone's like, that's a good guy because kids are out here getting stolen, getting raped. So if they're fighting human trafficking, of course you want to be on that guy's side. So they sell you on we're fighting human trafficking. And then their own ego and pathological lies 90% of the time, they're not even talking about kids. They're not talking about the border. They're not talking about pedophiles. They're talking about the secret plans that don't exist through the Biden didn't never swore it in, and there's 2 presidents, and then March 4th, he's going to come back. Actually, January 6th, they're wrong. It's like, it's really selfish. It's like they're using a noble cause, human trafficking, to basically elevate themselves as a superstar on the right, to then just pathologically lie to people and take, naive boomers and millennials through fantasy world on this ride and quest that they think they're arresting the deep state as their own country continues to suffer, because no one's actually solving the problems, because they can't cope with what happened. If you love the vaccine, love the vaccine. If you don't like the vaccine, it's up to you. But if you don't like it, but you're worshiping Trump like a god because you refuse to admit that do you know how many things? It's one thing if you say he had to do it. You know how many times I've heard, Anomaly, you don't understand what Operation Warp Speed is. It's this super secret way he's fighting Bill Gates. It's like, no, that's what you tell yourself when you're too cowardly to face what really happened. So you make up this fake reality to make yourself feel better. It's like, and I get why people are doing it. I'm not trying to be rude. A lot of people have been abused, not just physically, but psychologically. I'm talking like lockdowns are psychological abuse. A lot of people have been hurt by what happened. A lot of people have been hurt over the course of the last 4 or 5 years from the media onslaught and being locked in their house. So they're looking up to a shining light the same way you would look up to Christ or the Bible or your religion, except you're choosing a new religion where instead of Christ rising at the end, you have Trump and the military rising at the end. It's just straight idolatry, and it's ruining the right wing because, in order to get something done, enough right wingers, I think, have to realize what's happening and put their foot down. That's how you get real change. It's not just the politicians. It's not just Trump. It's certainly not Joe Biden. It's when enough Americans say, we're not going to be fooled by this little circus you're putting on. We firmly stand with the First Amendment, and we don't care if you're Obama. We don't care if you're Biden. We don't care if you're Trump. But, Trump, whether this was his role or he just kind of got fooled into it, he ended up really being a Trojan horse for tyranny because he was a likable figure, in some cases a likable idol, who everybody fell in love with. And they didn't want to think that he would do this. So if it was Obama, Bush, Clinton, Hillary, everybody would have been like, we're not shutting down for 15 days. But people love Trump, so they allowed it. And I'm not saying he meant to do it, but, on the Reddit forums and stuff, and I know because I was on it, because I like Trump, but, they call him God Emperor Trump. That's what they were calling him, Geodis, God Emperor. What does that say? Is he the president? No, he's the God Emperor. He's an emperor. He's God. That's straight idolatry. And I'm not speaking from I condemn you people who do, like, I fell for this stuff for a little while. I got to the point where he was doing so well, I literally was willing to call him God Emperor. I was willing to literally make him into a false idol and compare him to God, which is just totally blasphemous. That there's a whole Reddit page where there used to be like, that's what they call him, Geodis, God Emperor of the United States of America. It's funny, it's trolly, but once you kind of watch how it's working and like you start questioning him and you're like, listen, I like him, but I don't agree with this. I see that people have literally made him into a god where they take it as if you're blaspheming Allah. If you just ask a simple question, you must have voted for Biden. You must be a traitor. You must be working with Mossad. Like all these accusations based off of like a rational decision that you would have said no matter who it is. So, as much as it's happening with Dr. Anthony Fauci, before I even get into the subtler stuff, really who I'm talking about among everything is like the people who have literally, like quite literally made up a whole religion based off of Trump rising again and Trump coming back at random times and things like the military saving the United States of America. And no matter how many false prophecies, no matter how many times they're wrong, they just put their head down and freak out at anybody who points out the fact that they were wrong. It's like this whole mind control, like cult thing around like saving the world through like fake fantasy fairy tales. And that's just the extreme version. On a non-extreme version, when I say something like this, like that's the extreme thing where I'm like, yo, this is getting kind of crazy. But there's even people who don't pay attention to any of that stuff. They don't even know what that is, where it's like, if you bring something to the table about Trump and just like, hey, what do you think about this? I know you don't agree with this personally. What do you think? The crazy amount of excuses start coming out. I'm talking about things that you just never would hear if Bush did this or any, like, I'm like, do you really, like, it's like people go into full PR mode where they're protecting their child. And I'm like, okay, but what about you as an American? I'm not talking about him. Like, are you okay with that? Because I know, like, for me, I draw a pretty hard line when it comes to the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Constitution. I would say lockdowns. I consider lockdowns human slavery. Quarantine is a word. You're supposed to quarantine the sick. Quarantine the sick. You were never supposed to quarantine the healthy. In my opinion, this whole bamboozling from the testing, from the lockdowns, from the tracing, from the ventilators to Operation Warp Speed to color-coded tyranny to you're open, you're closed, this and that. To me, it's all a trick into human slavery. And if you look up the word slavery, you can see that it has a meaning of what actually happened. I mean, you can't just lock down societies. So the point I'm going to is like, people will say to me on my stream, you're too tough. You're being too tough. He tried his best. And I'm like, guys, you only think this because you worship him at such a high rate that you're acting like this is a small issue. Like, oh my God, he just passed a little bill that I don't care about. And I'm freaking out. Dude, they shut the country down. Both parties shut the country down. And it wasn't just the left. It was a bipartisan operation. Operation Warp Speed was bipartisan. The lockdown was bipartisan. 15 days to slow the spread was bipartisan. For a while, Fauci and Dr. Birx were bipartisan. The entire implementation of all of this was all a two-party setup. And I'm not a Biden voter. I'm just disappointed because I thought the Republicans, at bare minimum, were going to stop communism. I didn't think it was going to be the Republicans, the leadership at the Republican White House, the leader of the Republican Senate. I didn't think they were going to implement literal communism. So I don't think I'm being crazy with it. I think they really screwed up and nobody wants to admit it because they idolized the person at the head of the operation. And if that was Bush, if that was Romney, if that was Rubio, if that was Jeb Bush, if that was Clinton, if that was Biden, if that was Kamala, if that was literally anybody, literally ever, no one would feel this way, where I would be saying the same exact things and other people would be like, they draw such a hard line when it comes to Mike Pence or, Kristi Noem or other. And I'm like, they give the pass to Trump on everything. And then with Kristi Noem, she does one thing and they're ready to throw her out of the party. I'm like, imagine if you had that same threshold with Trump. He wouldn't line up to your standards, but they have put him on a tier above human, above, healthy support. Someone said, who are you talking to? I'm talking to the world right now, whoever's listening, but I'm just saying there are a lot of liberals, not all of them, a lot of them who have taken Dr. Anthony Fauci as a government person that they love and made a religion around him. You can't question him. You can't disagree with him. The science is settled, even though he disagrees with himself all the time. And I will literally do anything Dr. Anthony Fauci says, no matter what he says. It's not a healthy love of a politician, health guy. It's idolatry. It is creating a religion around Dr. Anthony Fauci. And with Trump, it's the same thing. I voted for Trump. I have Trump ice cubes in my freezer. I say that as a joke because it's for real. Like, I'm not this guy who just hates on Trump, but when I talk to other people, including people I know, people I meet, people I see online, there are some people who get it. There are some people who agree with me. There are some people who respectfully disagree. And then there's millions of people who have created a religion around Donald J. Trump, where he's going to rise again like Christ, where he's still secretly in the White House because they can't cope that he left, that the military is going to save their lives because they're too afraid to realize that they might actually have to do something themselves. And there is no fairy tale idol ending where an entity is going to save the whole world, like secretly, like it's a Batman movie. And then there's people who, if anyone else were to do Operation Warp Speed, anyone else were to do the things Trump did, they would have been on it like white like rice. But when Trump does it, instead of even considering it and being like, I'll think about it, they go into defense mode and literally will spew out things that they would never say. They'll agree with something that they would never agree with. And I'll give you an example. If Trump took the other stance of Operation Warp Speed, if he said, hey, I don't think we should emergency use authorize these. I don't think we should rush them. I think we should wait 5 years because the FDA doesn't have the greatest track record. And if we wait 5 years, then they'll really be safe. If Trump said that, all these people who are defending Operation Warp Speed tell me, anomaly, he had to do it. Anomaly, no, it's good. It's a secret plan to save the world. It's this, it's that. All these excuses, there would be no excuse. They wouldn't be saying, oh, he should have done that to save the world. He should have done that to open up. He had to do it to open up. Oh, it's a secret. They would be on his side and they would say, no, this is a great decision. So what does that tell me? They're like a cat with a light. You shine the light and they run that way. Trump has mind controlled so many people on the right wing, not everyone, to the point where he's just like Anthony Fauci. If Anthony Fauci said, stick 2 fingers up your bum, they'd stick 2 fingers up your bum. If Trump says it, there's millions of Trump supporters who would do it as well. It's not a healthy love for a president. It's straight idolatry. It's creating an entire religion around making excuses for, ignoring anything inconvenient to the narrative for. There's things I've shown And the reason I know so much, it's not because I'm super smart. It's not because I'm better than anybody. I like to hear new information. So when I really like Trump and I heard people say stuff that I didn't want to hear, I just listened to it. That's the only reason I know stuff, is because I listen and I consider. I'm like, I never heard that before. I didn't freak out at them. Like, when I learned about the anti-Semitism speech bills and Sheldon Adelson and how much money he was funneling into the Republican Party and how it was making people like DeSantis and Trump sell out the First Amendment. I like Trump. I like DeSantis. They both passed anti-First Amendment legislation. I'm talking anti-First Amendment hate speech legislation, trying to make it illegal and trying to penalize you in the United States of America for saying something, half of which is true, the other half of which is a total exaggeration of what it means to be hateful. Not the left wing, not Ilhan Omar, not Joe Biden, not just Facebook. Trump and DeSantis, people that I like, passed anti-First Amendment legislation. You probably never heard about it because none of these right wingers want to talk about it, because it's all a show. It's all I want to be popular. I don't want to ruffle the feathers on my team. So what does it mean to be right wing if you don't even believe in the First Amendment? You believe in, not saying it because you don't want to offend anyone. It means that you're going to lose. It means the country's going to get locked down. It didn't get locked down for any other reason besides the right wing is like a cat. That's what I'm talking about. When you're easy enough to fool, when you hate Ilhan Omar and worship Donald Trump like a god so much that they could sneak through anti-First Amendment legislation off your emotions and no one will even realize it, that's when you become as easy to fool as the left. And that's what I'm talking about. So the point I'm getting to is the only reason I know that stuff is because somebody told me, like I'm telling you, someone explained it on a live stream. And here's what I did. I liked Trump. I would say I had an unhealthy obsession with Donald Trump. And I heard it and I didn't freak out. I didn't say, F this guy. No, you don't understand. I said, wow, that's interesting. I never heard that. And then I started looking into it and I was like, oh, it's actually true. That's how you learn stuff. It's like, I never freaked out at other people when they told me inconvenient stuff about Trump. I just said, oh, damn. And that's the difference between someone who can, process information versus someone who's so emotional, so into the idol worship that they knock it away like you're talking to a Muslim about Allah or you're talking about a Christian like Christ. It becomes that point where that's how you get there. But that's what I'm talking about when it comes to this is that's how I learn stuff and that's how other people learn stuff. But the people who lash out so hard when information comes that's inconvenient, it doesn't prove that, you're conservative. It means you're going to be easy to tap into. And I think that's the whole lockdown, and the script going on right now is you have the two sides, right? You have idol Fauci versus idol Trump. Even though, to be honest, they were both working together for like 4 months and Trump played both sides and ended up caving. But anyway, you have two sides, the left and the right, the Trump and the Fauci, the red and the blue. So they get you in two sides and those two sides are moving in lockstep. Yes, sometimes they fight, but for the most part, at the end of every year, they're going to pass billion-dollar, trillion-dollar bills and they're all going to suck. I mean, whether it's Trump passed every omnibus bill. He said he wouldn't. He did it just like the rest and the omnibus bill sucked. This is when I was first a little bit suspicious of Trump. In 2018, he passed the omnibus bill, but he fought it really hard. And I remember he said when he signed it, I will never sign another bill like this again. Trump is a very good showman. He said, I'll never sign a crappy bill like this again. And we all said, oh, it's disappointing you did that, but we appreciate that you said that. 2019, this is when I first got suspicious. Not only did he pass another bill like that again, it was worse than the last one, and he didn't fight it at all. He sold it. He sold a shitty product like a snake oil salesman, and no one on the right realized because everybody was obsessed with him. I was one of the only reporters who talked about it. People say, Anomaly, you're turning on Trump. You're a Biden voter. I didn't vote for Biden. You're turning on Trump because he lost. Guys, I've been saying this for years. It's just when I say other stuff, it gets millions of views. When I say this stuff, I can't clear 50 or 100K because no one wants to hear it. I've been saying it. It's just not popular. But the point I'm getting to is it wasn't just that he sold something. He sold a product that he knew was whack. It was raising the smoking age to 21, like funding Second Amendment, anti-gun legislation. And he sold it as if it were a gold bar. And people ate it up because they worship Trump. They don't pay attention to what he's doing. They worship the idea that he's doing what they want him to do when he's not doing what they want him to do. So, the reason the right's easy to fool is for that reason. People bought so hard into him that it's like it goes in one ear and out the other when he doesn't do something. Then came the speech legislation. Then came the lockdown. Then came Operation Warp Speed. Now I just call him the vaccine salesman. He was like skeptical in 2016. Now he's like a full-blown Moderna and Pfizer salesman. It's like, that's just what he does. That's what he wants. He wants credit for that. He doesn't care if kids have to get forced it. He's not saying much about the cruise lines. He's not really saying much about anything. He's just, repeating the same script, bragging that he did it. He wants credit. He's a vaccine salesman. It's the Trump bump. He wants credit. So to me, I'm uninterested. I'm like, this guy, he's a really good salesman. I'll read a tweet from today too, where I find that he's playing this game of, the same type of like the Q people are playing, where he just puts a carrot in front of your face and the game never ends. This is him in an email. He said, "Congratulations to the country of Nigeria, who just banned Twitter because they banned their president." So Nigeria had Twitter messing with their politics, and the president banned Twitter, a boss move. Trump said more countries should ban Twitter and Facebook for not allowing free and open speech. All voices should be heard. I agree. Trump also said, in the meantime, competitors will emerge and take hold. I don't think I agree with that, because Apple bans you if you actually test them. Trump said, who are they to dictate good and evil if they themselves are evil? Exactly. He said, perhaps I should have done it while I was president. This is the funniest thing. He says, perhaps I should have done something about it when I was president. It's like, you think so? And then he says, but Zuckerberg kept calling me and coming to the White House for dinner, telling me how great I was. 2024? So he dangles the carrot at the end. He says 2024 with a question mark. So all of the idolaters are, yes, he's going to come back in 2024. But to me, it reads like a joke. He's just like, should I have done? Maybe I should have done something. Of course you should have done something about it, but you didn't. Well, he was telling me how great I was at a dinner. So you're that easy to fool? People can just say nice things about you, and you'll let them take over the country because they fooled you at a White House meeting. And then he dangles the 2024 carrot. And this seems to be like the trap, and people love it. Like I'm starting to realize now that, I've lost people to the religion of Trump. I don't mind it, but it's like, there's people who like him. There's people who want to vote for him. There's people who forgive him. There's people who are annoyed at him. And then there's people who have literally created a new religion. He's going to rise again. He's coming back. He's coming back next month or next month. He's coming back. Sidney Powell told me he's going to come back. He's coming back. Mike Lindell told me he's coming back. He's coming back. He's coming back on January 6th. Trust me, Mike Lindell said so. Mike Flynn said he's going to come back on the 20th. Trust me. Oh, it's March now? He's coming back on March. Oh, it's April now? Well, I never said March. It's like, what? I know these people make videos and they're public. It's like, I could show you the video where you said that he was going to come back in March. Oh, well, I never said that. Are you an analyst or are you just a pathological liar? Like, if you say anomaly, you said this in 2016. It's like, yeah, I did. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I didn't know what I was talking about, but I'm not going to sit here and act like I never said it. No, that doesn't exist. Anomaly, I can show you the video of you saying that. Yeah. So, you get what I'm saying. At a certain point, it becomes a bigger thing. And that's my thought. So I'm going to read some comments now, but that's really my main message. Whether it's Fauci or Trump, I think this is destroying the country because you have two sides, the left and the right, the red and the blue, the Trump and the Fauci, the Obama and the whoever. And they get you so enthralled in these characters to the point where you forget about your own religion, your own Lord and Savior, your own morality, your own critical thinking skills, your own, wisdom. And you just turn into an emotional worshiper of a human being, which I'm not even going to say is sacrilegious, but it's just, you're going to end up being a fool. And that's exactly how they do it. They've sucked the left dry. The left is almost, no offense, they're almost good for nothing now. What does the left do properly? They used to be anti-war. They used to be pro-freedom. They used to be funny. All the comedians used to be more liberal. It's like the left has ruined almost anything. They're not pro-free speech. They get mad at every joke. You can't talk to them. They cry about everything. It's like there's nothing good for me on the left anymore. But they did that not through the love of what they do. They did so through the hate of conservatives. Don't you hate those people? Don't you hate those abortion advocates? Don't you hate Charlottesville? Don't you hate Trump? Don't you hate the Capitol? You better hate the Capitol. Let's watch the Capitol again. Let's keep showing Charlottesville and the Capitol, because if we fill you with enough anger and hate for those people, we're going to convince you that all those people are those people. And once you hate them, you'll do whatever we say. And that's why the left got fooled. They idolize phonies in politics, but they hate the other side so much that they become easy to fool. You could literally tell the left to spin in a circle and stick something, and they're like, well, if Fauci said so, if Trump said not to, it's like, you're not yourself anymore. You've lost the entire ideology of liberalism to this cult worship of figures and this cult hate. There's entire hate groups. They hate Trump so much they'll do anything. And then the right has shown so much improvement, so much evolution. I think Trump, this is why people love him. He did change the game. He did elevate the culture, and I will never disrespect him for that, and I will never not credit him for that. It's not like he's a good for nothing loser. I've never said that. He really changed the culture of right-wing conservatism. He became a figure who people saw and got inspired to get in themselves, to be stronger, to realize that the Mitt Romneys were just stringing them along to a crumbled country. So he did that. And now, he kind of took a shift. And I think at this point, he did so much for people, and his personality. Trump is so funny. He's so interesting. If you want to talk about acting and speaking, well, Trump is a better speaker. He's a very good speaker. As far as these other politicians goes, he's funny, he's likable, he's off the cuff, he's engaging. That's why they love to hate him. It gets ratings. The best thing that could happen to CNN is Trump winning again. They finally get high ratings again. But the point I'm getting is people took this unhealthy obsession with him, where now it's a full-blown religion, in my opinion. When you think he's going to return like Christ, when you don't care how many times your false prophecies are wrong, you pretend like they never happened, when you think the military is in control of the country and that Biden's not the president and that Trump is secretly in the White House and he's going to come, it's like he might run again. But as far as him secretly being there running the show, then why are things going the way they're going if Trump's running the show? Because he's not running the show. But even if he was running the show, to be honest, a lot of this stuff wasn't going to shift anyway, because it's deeper than just the president. First of all, there's states, but also it's the cult. It's when people demand, if you're just chasing the tail of Obama or Trump, you're going to get whatever Obama and Trump do. When you stop chasing the tail of the politician and you stand firm in your beliefs, it doesn't matter if it's Trump or not, you're going to get results. So I think that's, the key of the future is like people got so caught up in the great stuff that they've created a full-blown religion and idol worship around somebody who clearly can do anything that they don't agree with, and they will figure out a way to either make excuses for it, support it, or just completely ignore it as if it didn't happen. And it's the point where it's becoming just really weird, honestly. Like I thought it was temporary maybe, but I get it. I mean, he was a big figure, and I think a lot of people are scared, and I think a lot of people are, if it's not Trump, who's going to save me? I think that's like a lot of it too, is like people are afraid to figure out that like maybe it might not last forever. And I kind of saw that, I think, in 2019, because you'd see on these like Trump forums, well, Trump's going to win, then Ivanka's going to run, and then John Jr. is going to run, and then Barron's going to run. It's a funny joke to be like, yeah, Barron, Trump. I've made that joke before too, but I feel like a lot of people really bought into that because they were enjoying the Trump winning culture so much that as soon as it ended, they didn't want to give up that. So it's like, instead of realizing it didn't work, they'd rather lie to themselves or stay in that, because it's like, it's a scary thought. Well, if not Trump, then who? It's like, I don't know. I didn't expect him to turn out the way he did, but it's like at a certain point, I don't know. It's like we just got to cope with what's going on and figure it out. Let me see. I'm gonna read some comments. Someone said Anomaly has to go back to Subway and make sandwiches. Have it your way. I mean, I'll take that as a funny joke. I never worked there, but someone said you're right, Anomaly, but don't get caught up in kicking a dead horse. Too much stress. Well, I'm not stressed out. I mean, if you let it bother you, it can be stressful, but I'm not. It doesn't bother me anymore. I don't think. I'm not really worried about it. I'm gonna try to read some top comments on Facebook. Let me see. Someone said thank you. Okay, I'm gonna turn that down. Someone said it's a cult mentality. People get too culty. I think so. Someone said, Anomaly, go outside and take a walk. You sound like you've been on social media too much. Well, Amanda, first of all, God bless you, and I appreciate you. If you're really concerned about me, like, you look like you've been on too much social media, take a walk. I appreciate it. But like, to me, that's just kind of like in a passive aggressive way to say like, Anomaly, I don't want to hear what you're talking about. I stream for a living. I make videos for a living. So Obviously, I like to work out. I haven't worked out as much because my hand is fractured. I don't think you care, but it's not easy for me to exercise anymore because I have to keep my thumb stable because it's broken and shattered. But I don't think you're really concerned with my health and you're really concerned with my mental or physical health. I think you're just triggered by what I said. So you end up just trying to be rude in order to, just go for a walk. It's like, are you projecting onto me or you really think I look good? I'm not saying like I'm bragging. I'm just saying like, I think I look healthy, but it's up to you. Someone said the Arizona audits. I have a really good video about social media. I'm going to put it up I'm making a second channel, but it's from last live stream. Like the root of what happened, this all happened in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. One of the reasons I don't trust Trump again to run is because all of this rigging of Facebook and Google and YouTube, it was happening in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. If you go back to 2018, I said that it was going to be very, very hard for Trump to win the election, even without the lockdown, because of what Facebook and Google were doing. Facebook doesn't want Trump to win. Google doesn't want Trump to win. And they're collecting data. And then they're using pop-ups and this and that to get people registered. It's not like 2016. Like, people don't realize how powerful this technology is. And they made sure in 2020, they did not want him to win. So why you get what I'm saying? To me, Trump reminds me of the Q stuff. He dangles a carrot in front of your face. He doesn't do anything about big tech while he's in office. He lets all his big supporters get banished. He lets the country get locked down. He rushes vaccines for Fauci, Bill Gates, Pfizer, and Moderna, does a little dance, locks the country down, which eventually leads to mass mail-in ballots. And then he does this crazy dance like he thinks the election was stolen and hinting that he might run. It just reminds me of the meme where the donkey's chasing the carrot and he never stops chasing because he just puts it in front of your face. Like, you get what I'm saying? I don't think the elections were 100% fair, but it's way deeper than what Trump's saying. He's the clown show in town to make people just run in circles. Like, you get what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be rude, but I'm so over it. I hope the audits go well, but that his whole shtick is so old to me. Steven said, thank you for the super chat. Come on, bro. You know he was the complete opposite of a politician. I like the rough speech. Too many DC talk like snakes. I understand being neutral, stand back. They may eliminate your channel too. Well, thanks for the super chat, Steven. But you ignored everything I said. I told you what I disagreed. I'll go through it again. But now you're doing this straw man where it's like, hey, Anomaly, you must be saying this because you don't want them to delete your channel. If I didn't want them to delete my channel, I wouldn't be talking about the medical tyranny stuff, the exact opposite of what Trump's doing. He's on the wicked side. He's on the side of the liars. I'm on the side of the truth tellers, which gets your, account quicker than if you're a Trump supporter. But, you're not listening to what I'm saying. I liked his speeches early on, and then he turned into a vaccine salesman. He's been saying a script that doesn't sound anything like, it's nothing revolutionary. He's just like selling Pfizer and Moderna jabs. And I told you about the First Amendment bills he passed that were anti-First Amendment. I told you about the lockdown. I told you about Operation Warp Speed. I could give you every reason. What does it mean to sound like you're not a politician just to do what every other politician did and walk out the door, with a lockdown country that you kind of helped usher in? It's not the rough speeches I cared about. Actions speak louder than words. And he was building up to a huge finale. And the huge finale was not arresting the pedophiles. The huge finale was not freeing America. He sent America further left than Obama, Bush, and Clinton, printed trillions of dollars, helped Fauci and Birx gain power, gave Pfizer and Moderna more power than they ever had, fought Big Pharma for 3 years just to give them so much money that there's now 9 new pharma billionaires because of Trump's Operation Warp Speed. He gave Big Pharma and people like Fauci more power than they've ever had. So it's not me afraid to lose my channel. Thank you for bringing it up. It's you idolize this guy like a god. What part of what I said did you not understand? You can't even debunk anything I said. So you're like, oh, you must not like him to lose your channel. No, you must put him above Christ to the point where you can't even think straight, where you ignore what I say for 10 minutes just to make a sideways comment that doesn't even make sense to what I said. Sharissa said, please say that God is supercalifragilistically awesome. God is supercalifragilistically awesome. Thank you, Sharissa. That's probably nothing I would have said on my own, but I'll say it for the super chat because it's kind of joyful. Maximo said, since he's on the side of evil, what do you think would have happened if Trump never created Operation Warp Speed? Well, I don't want to do hypotheticals, and I'm just saying in general, if he never created Operation Warp Speed, we never would have really been here. And I know a lot of people like to separate it. Well, the lockdown and Operation Warp Speed are different. If he never did that, we would have never been free. It's all the same. It's all part of it. I'm not going to say I know a cure, but if you look in the press, there's all these other things that are coming out saying they were effective. They were effective. If they were deemed effective, there is no emergency use authorization for the vaccine. In order for the vaccines to be approved, you need an emergency. The lockdown is the emergency. In order for the emergency use authorization to be pushed through, you need no other cures. So if there were ever other cures that they could prove were cures, then the vaccine would have been null and void. So I think that's why Trump stopped talking about the H word and the Ivor word, that people talk about. There's a reason it all died down, because the vaccine doesn't work without the lockdown, without the emergency, and with another cure. So, if he didn't do it, I don't want to play hypotheticals, but I think we would be in a much better place personally. But, I could say, what if he called out the testing? What if he didn't give everybody ventilators? I'm not going to play, hindsight, but it's all it's all the same. Like, in order to get, 15 days to slow the spread, extending the lockdown past Easter, Operation Warp Speed, signing the emergency, signing the CARES Act, they all go hand in hand. It's like people want to separate them. Like, oh, he didn't know what was going on. He knew what was going on. It's just, at a certain point, it's just sad to realize that in crunch time for humanity, everybody loved Trump because they thought he was the leader that could save them, including myself. I thought Trump would be the leader that when something like this happened, when the globalists and these type of people made a move on America, everybody voted for him because they thought he would be the guy to stand there and say, you're not going to destroy America. But instead, he took the side with them and said, that's fine. I'll sell vaccines for you guys. And I've come to terms with it. And I could say, I appreciate what he did do. I'm just uninterested in his new shtick. But a lot of people who love him, who are diametrically opposed to Operation Warp Speed personally, will say, oh, I'll just pretend like he never did that. Like that guy Super Chat, he's like, he was the total opposite of a politician. Like, that's one perspective. He definitely did a good job talking a big game. But, when it's all said and done, your term is 4 terms. So if you do really good in the first 3 quarters and your fourth quarter is so bad that it's worse than anyone's fourth quarter ever, and you're not even like willing to say what happened, then if that's the show you want, you'll get it. And I think that's another point I'm trying to make is like, you get what you deserve. The left wants it, they'll get it. The left wants Portland to turn to crap, they get a crappy Portland. The left wants LA to turn to crap, they'll get it. You get what you want. So if the conservatives want to play this game where they're just losing in slow motion and picking these people that do half things and just end up screwing them over like everyone else, and they love that and you worship that and you want it, you're going to get it. So it's like, you get what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be mean, but I think the Republicans are too nice. I think conservatives are way too nice. And I think they've like become so far in love with Trump. They don't care that he didn't take care of business. They love the illusion that he did take care of business. So they're willing to give it another try and just lose again. So it's like, it's not even Trump's fault. I think it's conservatives' fault. Holly said, I have yet to hear him say forced vaccines are bad. Well, it's because he spends his time not saying that, saying he brought them there. He rushed them through the FDA. And I'm not saying this lightly to be edgy or something. Trump legitimately doesn't care about his millions of supporters who are being forced vaccinated. He has said dozens of times, I'm talking 20, 30, 40 times. If you combine his Newsmax, his Fox News, all of his emails, you could find at least 40 times where he said, I did it. I rushed it here. If it was Fauci, it would have taken 5 years. It's me, Operation Warp Speed. I funded them. I bought them before they even worked. I did it. I did this. I did this. I did this. I did this. He said that 40 times. How many times has he said, I don't think it's right for kids at Rutgers to be forced vaccinated. I don't think it's right for millions of my supporters to lose their freedom at their jobs. I don't think it's right for people to lose their jobs. I don't think it's right to shut that. He's never said it. He doesn't care. This is what I'm talking like. It doesn't matter if you like Trump. He literally doesn't care if you're getting forced vaccinated, so much so that the ratio of how many times he's bragged about it, bringing the product versus how many times he stood up for supporters is almost like 40-0. I mean, I can't find a single time that he took a huge principled stance against it like Ron DeSantis. It doesn't exist because he doesn't care. But people worship him like a god, so they ignore that and start making up fake theories about how much he really cares. He doesn't care. You could like him and realize that he doesn't care, but that would shatter the whole illusion. So people are, they're doomed to get exactly what they asked for. And that's kind of my concern for America is the left is full blown gone. The right is full-blown idol worship of Trump, and they're going to get exactly what they want. But when it doesn't end up like they wanted to, don't be surprised. It's not going to be what people think it is. Maximo said, but quarantines happen because the virus, not the vaccine. Maximo, here's what I'm saying, brother. In order to get the vaccines rushed out, in order to get all this stuff, you need the lockdown. So if you want to separate, well, it's totally different him doing that. It's all the same. Do you think they would have had a budget for Operation Warp Speed if they didn't lock the country down? Read the 2019 influenza executive order. Watch Event 201. You know, a lot of this stuff is lockstep as far as like this comes this. It's like a whole rollout. So it's like you're trying to, because you like Trump and you're like, well, he saved the world with the vaccine. It's like there is no vaccine without the lockdown, without Trump's 15-day to slow the spread, without the extension past Easter, without the CARES Act, without Operation Warp Speed. It's all hand in hand that you can't emergency use authorize a vaccine without an emergency. So if you want to stop this, you have to stop one of the 5 steps. Trump rolled out every single step. And by the way, in March and April, when this was all happening, he also rolled out a new communications platform. The same, I'm not going to say the number in the letter because they freak out on social media, but the same communications platform that in China they've been using to digitally surveil people. So Trump locks you down in March, and then he passes an executive order to secure number letter, the communication, 1G, 2G, you get where I'm going. Look up when that came to America, right when you were locked down. I'm not starting a theory. I'm not talking about the health aspects of it. I'm just saying, isn't it a little bit strange that nobody even knows that? And they rolled, as soon as they rolled that out, we became like communist China. And communist China has been using that communications platform to surveil their people and treat their people like, communist slaves, essentially, and that all you think Trump's just totally oblivious of this stuff? That's just what you tell yourself when you don't want to realize that he was he played the perfect role, not to save America, not to save your freedom, not to stop communist China. He rolled it all out, and then he did a dance, and then he left out, and now he's dangling a carrot in front of your face. I know it hurts people's feelings. I know people get emotional about it, but one day you'll look back and be like, I was mad at Anomaly. I see what he's saying now, and a lot of people have. But things that I was trying to talk about 3 years ago, now all of a sudden people are starting to see it, because it doesn't matter my opinion or your opinion. If it's true, it's not going to go away. Steven said, nah, I had to sum it up. I only have too many characters to type, bro. No one is against you. LOL. They would have outed him to do inaction reasons if people kept dying. It was either or. I don't even know what you're talking about, Steven. God bless you. Thank you for the super chat. But it's like, what do you, so here, I'll respond to what you're saying, Steven, because it was a little confusing, but I think you're saying if he didn't do the lockdown, they would have blamed him for the lives. So in April of last year, this is nothing new. I said the same thing. I said, he's going to lock down and they're still going to blame him for the life. So this is why I'm glad you brought that up, Steven. This is the mentality why conservatives keep losing. It's why you win the White House, you lose. You lose the White House, you lose. You get Trump, you lose. You get Trump, you get a lockdown. It's because conservatives don't conserve anything. Your ideology is he had to please the left. If he would have done something about it, they would have said he killed everybody. Guess what? He did everything they wanted him to do, and they still blame him for every death, and he still lies about it. So now you have a liar. He lies about it. He did the bidding of the left, and they still blame him for the death. It's like, I don't want to tell the truth. They're going to call you racist. They're going to call you a Nazi. They're going to say you killed everybody. So either you stand for something or you lose. This is why I appreciate your comment. This is why conservatives lose. I have to please the left. They're never going to like you. They don't tell the truth. They'll make up anything. They go riot. You have a protest. They're mad at you. They go riot. It doesn't matter. So how are you going to keep losing with this idea? Well, I like Trump so much that, he had to lock down or they would have blamed him for the deaths. They blamed him for the deaths. They like, don't you get it now? The left is never going to stop. Thank you, Jenny. I appreciate it. I'm glad you brought up that super chat, because your ideology, that's the exact reason conservatives can't conserve anything. It's just a constant spiral. And then they start playing this game like Tim Scott. Well, we did bipartisan COVID printing. And everyone's like, oh my God, Tim Scott is such a good guy. It's like, did you not hear what he said? He's a nice guy. Tim Scott seems like a great guy. He's bragging about printing trillions of dollars, guys. Did no one listen to his speech? Well, he's fighting the left. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're fighting the left, so you clap when Tim Scott says, Nancy Pelosi did Democrat printing bills. We did bipartisan printing bills. Your bipartisan printing bills sucked, Tim Scott. You're supposed to fight the deficit, not print trillions of dollars. He printed more money than Obama and Bush and bragged about it, and everyone's clapping because they think they're fighting Ilhan Omar. This gets like, guys, the right is so easy to fool. Oh man, when we do printing, it's so great. What about not printing trillions of dollars, Tim Scott? What about conserving something? No, we don't do that. We're just going to talk about critical race theory on TV. It's like, okay. Maximo said, if that was the case, then why were the left and Big Pharma against Operation Warp Speed at first? You think Big Pharma was against Operation Warp Speed, bro? It's giving them tens of billions of dollars. This is just a game they're playing in your head. Oh man, Big Pharma, they got 9 new billionaires. You think Pfizer and Moderna didn't want money? Of course they wanted money. Big Pharma was never against Operation Warp Speed. It's all just a little game. Well, if Trump does it, he's fighting the deep state by giving them money. It's like, he's not, of course they wanted the money. The left's like, maybe we shouldn't rush it. It's like, it's all just, they're anti-Trump. They idolize the hate of Trump. So they're like, maybe we don't agree with this. And as soon as it comes through, no, it's all a nice little, setup. Someone said Anomaly changed when they censored him on Facebook. Guys, I've been saying this since 2018. I talked about medical freedom in 2019. I said that they were going to do mandatory vaccines in a video in 2019 before the lockdown. Why? I'm not a mind reader. They were already pushing for it, and now they had the perfect excuse. I say this stuff, but it falls on deaf ears. If you can't hear what I'm saying, that's on you. Edge of the South said, would I rather get your vaccine from J&J, Pfizer, Moderna, or would you rather get it from a hot spoon? Seriously, which would you trust more? I don't want any of them, but to each their own. I'll pass on all of them personally, but if you want one, knock yourself out. Someone said, Dr. Fauci, thank you for the super chat. Someone said, I can't believe people don't see this. Well, it goes with what I'm talking about. I'm not going to be upset, but it's idol worship. I can explain to the T about what I didn't like in 2017, 18, 19. I could talk about it 1,000 times. I could be ahead of the curve. I said this in March. Anomaly start. Guys, you could find my tweets in April. I said Trump is ushering in communism and bragging about it. I said that in April. In March, I could read you a tweet. I said they're going to use this. How did I know? Here, I'll find the exact tweet. How did I know this in March? Trump doesn't know it, but I knew it. Why do you think I knew it? Because it was obvious. Like, come on, guys. I said they were going to bring mandatory vaccinations. They're going to do this. They're going to lock the country down before they locked it down. And I said, Trump doesn't have a magic wand to save you till the end of time. I said that in March. I said, Trump doesn't have a magic wand. Why do you think I said that in March? Do I hate Trump? No, I'm just trying to explain to people were idolizing him then. And I'm like, guys, if you don't get smarter, they're going to walk all over you. And that's exactly what happened. March through now, it's been just walking all over. This is nothing new, guys. This is not, I changed because Facebook censored me. No, I've been saying this for over a year. It's just people close their ears because it's like I idolize Trump. He's going to save me. He's going to arrest everybody. Just wait. Trust the plan. It's coming any day now. The deep state. You think I don't remember this stuff? You think people here don't remember this stuff? In March, I say this, but I want to repeat it just to accurately display history. The biggest opponent of my videos in March, because in March I was talking about the testing. I was talking about the lockdowns. I was always doing that. I was talking about, Bill Gates' involvement, whatever. You know who the number one hater of my videos were in March and April when I was going against the lockdown? It wasn't even the left. Do you know who it was? It was QAnon accounts. Why were they mad at me for going against the lockdown in March and April? Because these people are so brainwashed by the false religion of Trump idolization. They thought the lockdowns was a secret way to arrest John Podesta and the pedophiles, and the only way that they could possibly arrest everybody that they hate, like Chrissy Teigen and Tom Hanks, is if they lock the country down. Oh, don't worry about being locked in your house, Anomaly. Trump's using this to lock up all my enemies. So I was getting harassed, yelled at. I'm not even going to say threatened, but I will say, some pretty nasty messages from Q people because they thought the lockdown was a secret strategy to arrest the elites. 3 months later, they all start copying my reporting and being like, it's Dr. Fauci, I'm against the lockdown now. But then I'll be like, remember when you did this to me in March? And they're pathological liars. No, we didn't. We've been against it the whole time. No, you didn't, liars. You were for the lockdown because you were told for years and programmed to think that if the country locked down, the military's in control. The military's going to save us. They're locking up my enemies in Gitmo. They were the meanest people to me in March and April. I don't forget this because they idolized Trump through their false religion. That's real history. I'm not mad at these people, but they never tell the truth, and people get mad until you can't ignore it anymore. But I'll tell you, whether Trump's in there or not, you're not going to be able to ignore certain things anymore. As far as shifts in America, you're seeing the cities get worse. As the cities get worse, the surrounding areas get worse. Printing all this money and doing these things and passing speech laws and lockdowns and Operation Warp Speed, you're going to be able to play this game until you can't play it anymore. It's like it's all fun and games until there's no more illusion. It reminds me of Yuri Bezmenov. He said these people, and he was talking about liberals, but he said you could take them to Soviet Union and show them concentration camps and they still wouldn't get it. They will only get it when a boot's on their neck, and then they'll get it. But at that point, it'll be too late. It doesn't just refer to liberals. I mean, Yuri does. But if you're so programmed to ignore everything, well, normally you must have just changed because you got censored on Facebook. Guys, I've been saying, like, First Amendment, it doesn't matter who it is. This type of stuff. I have videos about it. I have proof. I have articles. Someone just wrote a really good article about Ron DeSantis's bill. As great of a governor he is, he does the same thing. He passes these anti-First Amendment, anti-Semitism laws that are totally, anti-First Amendment. He's basically passing these legislation bills that make it illegal to do hate speech. And the definition of hate speech has grown so large. Like, you wouldn't expect Ron DeSantis to do that, but he did it. It doesn't mean I hate him. I still think he's one of the better Republicans. But what does it say to our party that if the best Republican is passing speech laws? This country needs to go the other way. We need people who put their foot down and say no more speech laws. So, you can ignore it if you want, but eventually, I know you can get mad at me. One day you'll be like, dang, I see what he's talking about now, because it's gonna happen. Someone said Anomaly didn't vote for Biden. I mean, no, of course I didn't. But if people want to tell themselves that, if you say anything about Trump, you voted for Biden. Yeah, and if you disagree with Biden, you voted for Trump. That's sure. Madama Rose said pride enabled Trump to get into the office because locker room talk didn't stick. False pride also enabled his downfall. Yeah, I mean, I can't put a finger on what it is, but I do think pride and ego has a little bit to do with it. Like, he wants credit for the vaccine. Okay, at what cost? At what cost do you want that? So he really wants it. We'll see how it plays out. I wish him luck. Let's see. Someone said DeSantis's bill only protects politicians. Yeah, someone named, I'm trying to find her name real quick. I'm sorry, I should probably know it. But Olivia, I don't know how to say her last name. Rondeau. I'm bad with French sounding last names. She wrote a whole article about Ron DeSantis's anti-First Amendment legislation. It's very interesting. It's going to bother a lot of people, but I could tell you why. I could tell you why he passed it, but people are not going to want to hear it. They're going to say it's hate speech to say what I'm saying, but I know why he's passing it, and I know why Trump's passing anti-First Amendment legislation, because I know where the money's coming from. It's coming from a group of people who wants laws to protect their ethnicity. So that's another story. What's my solution? I mean, do what you got to do, but I say this all the time. I feel like I say this every stream and it's a broken record, and then people just keep asking me. But I think if the Republican and conservative movement wants to win, they have to not idolize a human being like a god and stick to their core values. If you're a Christian, put Christ above all. If you're a constitutionalist, put the Constitution above all. If you're a libertarian or you're a conservative and you believe in conservative values, the solution is paying attention and sticking to your guns. That's literally it. It's like, put your values above idol worship. It's that simple. But if you idolize a person, you don't care if he infringed on the First Amendment. You don't care if he infringed on the Second Amendment. You don't care if he printed trillions of dollars. You don't care if he unethically pushed through a product for the most corrupt industry, which absolutely is going to have, a legacy that we'll see what happens. But it's like, this industry does not need any more power. They don't need mandates. They don't need, a two-tiered society in their favor. This is all like dystopian Black Mirror horror movie stuff that's been ushered out in the last year. And it's not like Trump was sitting on the sidelines. He had a role that was probably more instrumental than Joe Biden's role. Trump did more to bring this all here than Joe Biden did. Joe Biden came in at the end, and he probably doesn't even know where he is. So it's like, I'm not saying to do anything radical. Just stick to your values as a conservative or whatever you are. believe in what you pretend to believe in. That's all the conservative movement has to do. And I'm not trying to be controversial and I'm not trying to be mean, but I realized in 2019, and I made a lot of videos about it when I saw what they were doing at TPUSA, no disrespect, I have a lot of friends there. I realized that a lot of people didn't actually care about what they pretend to care about. And that's all I've been saying for years. It's like, if you pretend to be a conservative, literally just conserve things, but it's all an act. And I'm not trying to be mean to people, but it's like high school. They just want to go and be popular. Oh, well, we're infringing on the First Amendment. Oh, well, at least it's not Ilhan Omar. Oh, well, our guy did that, but oh, well, that's all I could. It's like, you got a bunch of people who they're into idol worship more than they're into the values that they believe in. And I don't want to be a broken record, but in 2019, I talked about Shapiro, I talked about Kirk, I talked about PragerU. I'm not jealous. You think I need any more attention or something? I want to be left alone. I think they're all, very big figures, and I like to give people love. If DeSantis does something great, I'm like, you go, Ron DeSantis. I love giving people credit, but I realized that Shapiro, Kirk, and Prager, they pretty much predicate a living around, well, we're free speech advocates. We believe in free speech. We don't believe in hate speech. And that's why I liked Prager, Kirk, and Shapiro. They're three of the biggest names in politics. PragerU, huge. TPUSA, huge. Daily Wire, huge. These are three of probably the biggest names. And then I realized they don't actually believe anything that they say. And I'm not saying that to be mean or hateful or envious or anything. It's not me. I just realized they don't believe in free speech. They believe in free speech for people they agree with, just like the left. If you want to talk about Israel or you want to talk about any sort of Jewish influence in politics, which there's a lot, including the biggest donor in the right wing, the Republican Party, the reason that Ron DeSantis passes speech laws, probably the reason that Trump passes speech laws. This is not constitutional. This is not conservative. This certainly isn't Christian. This isn't American, but they do it anyway. Do you know why? Because I don't think they have allegiance to this country. I think they prioritize another country over America, and I see that they do that, and I see that they don't care about the First Amendment. So that's when I figured this out. This isn't brand new stuff that I'm dropping in 2020. I figured this out in 2019, that their whole persona is going around to college campuses and telling people and selling conservatives and taking up the whole market and saying, we're the free speech people, but they're not pro-free speech. They want to pass speech laws that say you can't question Israel. You can't question Jewish influence in politics. That's anti-Semitic. You can't question loyalty. You can't say this. You can't say that. You can't say this. Well, I thought we were against hate speech. I don't hate Black people. I don't hate Hispanic people. I'm part Hispanic, but I'm not literally saying it. I'm not, but I'm just saying I'm part Hispanic. I don't want Hispanic speech laws. I don't want white speech laws. I don't want Christian speech laws. I don't need speech laws are all fake. It's all a lie. That's not, the First Amendment doesn't say, well, if you're Jewish or if you're white or if you're Black, it's not if you're Christian or if you're Muslim. That's not American. If I wanted to live under Sharia law, I'd go to Saudi Arabia, but I don't want to because I'm not Muslim. God bless my Muslim brothers and sisters. But if I wanted a speech laws, I'd move there. It's not just left-wingers who are ushering in speech laws. It's the right. And when you call them out, they call you an anti-Semite. Oh, what do you hate Jews? No, I have so many Jewish friends and I love them to death. It's just, I'm an American. I believe in the First Amendment. I believe that you have the right to speak freely. And you think I can't read DeSantis' speech laws? I've read them. It's completely anti-American. I've read Trump's speech laws. I've read the speech laws on the State Department website. I've read the speech laws that Kirk agrees with. I've read the speech laws that Prager agrees with. I've read the anti-Semitism speech laws that Ben Shapiro wants to enforce. They're totally unconstitutional. And to be quite honest, they're not there to protect your friend. They're not there to protect the average Jewish family. They're there to protect the bankers, the political elites, the billionaire class, the Zuckerbergs, the Susan Wojciechis, the probably Ben Shapiro's when he gets big enough. They're not there to protect low-level Jewish people. I mean, you think that you're ever going to get a speech protection? No, it's for social media companies and other people to say, oh, you're starting to realize something? Okay, well, let's kick you off because now it's a law. They're passing this into law. The Republicans are. So the point I'm trying to get to is what's the solution? If the entire right wing actually believed in what they claim to believe in, this would all be over. But people idolize Trump, so they don't even realize it. People idolize Ben Shapiro and Prager and Kirk, and they don't even realize that this is going on because they don't talk about it, and they do their best to kind of kick people out of the way who talk about it. And I'll give you another example while I'm at it of times where if you disagree with the Trump and the speech stuff, they kick you to the curb. The only Republican, to my knowledge, who tried to reject the lockdown and tried to reject all this CARES Act and this printing and these scams that Trump and Pelosi were doing was Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie is a good man. He's a good politician. Thomas Massie said this is the biggest scam in American history, and he explained why perfectly, not just the printing, but how they were hiding who even signed it. With the lockdown, they finessed a way to pass one of the most expensive bills in modern history, if not the most expensive bill in modern history, and they tried to hide who even voted for it or not. And when Thomas Massie did that, do you know how he got thanked? Trump told, kick him out of the Republican Party. He's a third-rate Republican. Kick him out. So what does it mean to be a conservative if you pass the most communist bill in modern history? Donald J. Trump signs the most communist bill in modern history, and one Republican says that's messed up, and Trump says kick him out of the party. What are you conserving? You're not conserving the First Amendment. You're not conserving anything fiscally. You're conserving the idol worship of Trump and Shapiro and Kirk. That's all the right wing is. It's idol worship. It's I love these people, and I just assume that they're standing up for my freedom, and they're all not. And I'm not trying to pick a fight. I like them all, but I know they're not. And it's not like a challenge. Like I think I'm so great. None of them will debate me. I understand they're probably bigger than I am, or they think whatever. They could not stand 10 minutes in a debate with me because I have the facts. I have the legislation. I have the articles. I know that they all support it, and I know why they all support it. So they don't want to confront that they're doing that because then their whole audience will be like, oh my God, they don't even believe in the First Amendment. They just pretend to. So they sweep it all under the rug. They call everybody a racist and an anti-Semite. Oh my God, these far right people trying to mess up my rally. It's like, no, they were trying to ask legitimate questions about why all of these Republicans are passing anti-free speech laws. So that's the Republican Party. It's an idol worship party. So it's like, it's one thing to pass $1 trillion bill. It's another thing to look at people and say, kick him out, kick out the guy who's against it. So kick out the only legitimate conservative and just fill the party with Trump idolizers who will just, slurp on his feet when he signs trillions of dollars away. And you don't have like, well, that's different. It's like, read the CARES Act, read once you give money to these people, it's over. Once the CARES Act was signed, emergency order, CARES Act, Operation Warp Speed, we're done. Read the CARES Act. When it incentivizes certain things, you're done. You know what I'm saying? Mass testing, mass ventilators, mass payments for certain COVID positives and this and that and hospitalizations. Once Trump signed that bill, the country was gone. Biden didn't even have to get here. Trump gave it away. You know what I'm saying? Not just with federalism. Well, no, Emily, it's federalism. But there's also something called the president. So yes, there's federalism, but there's also the stroke of the pen from the president, the emergency order with the president. There's ways he could have combated. He just didn't. It's okay, but that's kind of the story. Someone said you a fool. You're allowed to say why you think I'm a fool. I'm open for debate. I'm definitely open, but I'm just trying to. People who've watched me for years, they know I said this in 2019. And once you give up the First Amendment, it's gone. So in 2019, they're signing away these little First Amendment bills. In 2020, your whole country, you can't protest, you can't do this. It's not random. The First Amendment needs absolutism or you lose it. If you don't give free speech and free protest to these people, you lose it. So in 2019, Trump was not fighting big tech. Trump was not fighting for your free speech. He was signing anti-Semitism BDS bills to make it illegal or a penalty to protest Israel on a college campus. That's what Trump was doing. Prager, Shapiro, Kirk, they didn't say anything about it because they all support it. They're not against the First Amendment. They're not for the First Amendment. They're totally fine with Trump giving it away for Israel and his Jewish donors. And then when 2020 rolls along, all of a sudden, magically, you lose the First Amendment. It's not a coincidence. When you give up the First Amendment for people you don't like, you lose it. We've always known that. People used to always talk about how the craziest groups used to march through the streets of New York City and everybody used to allow it. No one used to complain. Why? Because they understood the First Amendment. If you don't give them the First Amendment, you don't get the First Amendment for yourself. So it was an American pride thing to say, we don't like that group. We don't appreciate what they're doing, but gosh darn it, I would die for my freedom to let them march. That was the American way. I don't like them, but I agree with their right to stand here peacefully and do what they're doing because I understand if I don't let them do it, I'm going to lose it. And in 2020, in 2019, Trump said, well, I don't like these BDS protesters because they're protesting Israel, so I'm going to pass a law that makes it not illegal, that makes it illegal or a penalty on college campuses. That's blasphemous to the Constitution. But no one cares because they're all Zionists. And I don't say that in a mean way. Oh, what do you hate Israel? No. Zionism to me doesn't even just mean, okay, you have the right to exist Israel. I'm talking about people in the party who prioritize Israel over America. Well, if we could pass a speech law that's totally against America, but it slightly benefits any criticism against Israel, we'll pass it. Kirk's for it, Prager's for it, Charlie's for it, Shapiro's for it. They're all for it. Trump's for it, DeSantis is for it, Cruz is for it. You can't be there if you're not for it. You got to be for it. What does that mean? The party's not run by constitutionalists. The party's not run by pro-First Amendment advocates. The party's not run by fiscally conservative people. Trump printed trillions of dollars and told Thomas Massie, a libertarian, to go away. Who's the party run by? It's not run by constitutionalists, if it's not run by free speech advocates, if it's not run by fiscally conservative people, who runs the Republican Party? Zionists. Who runs Republican media? Zionists. That's their goal. It's not to protect America. It doesn't matter if America doesn't even exist anymore. As long as we keep funneling money, speech laws, and as much as we can to, our greatest ally. And I don't have a single hate in my heart. I love Israelis. In fact, you might see me out there dancing with some Israelis. You know what I'm saying? Putting on a show. I seen some video of some guy. He had a flag wrapped around him, and he's out there doing EDM music, looking like Matisyahu. That's all love to me. But it's like it's no hate in my heart. I'm just an American citizen. So it's like at a certain point, I don't have a political party. My political party gives up the First Amendment. Then we need a party that doesn't, or people need to realize that it's happening and stop it. I'm going to read this. Someone said we can't protest Israel on college campuses. Trump and other Republicans passed that bill. Yeah, I think Abby Martin, who honestly, I don't even like Abby Martin. She's annoying. No offense. She's pretty, but she's kind of annoying. Shout out Abby Martin, though. She's got some good points. Anyway, she ended up getting kicked off a college campus and she had to sue or something. Because Trump's anti-First Amendment bill made it, hard or impossible for her to do a speech on a college campus. I don't even like Abby Martin. I'm not what are you, an anti-Semite? No, that's the First Amendment. Abby Martin's not that bad. I mean, she could be a little annoying and progressive for me. She's not that bad. If Shapiro could speak on a college campus, so should Abby Martin. But Abby Martin can't speak because the Republicans are passing anti-free speech bills. And I don't even like her. People are like, what are you, Ilhan Omar? I can't stand Ilhan Omar. But she should have the right to tweet. It's all about the Benjamins. It doesn't, oh my God. It's a Biggie Smalls lyric for, you get what I'm saying? It's like, it's so new. What are you, a Biden voter? No, I don't vote for Biden. What do you vote? You're out with the Palestinian? Like, what are you talking? I'm not even weighing in on the conflict. I'm just saying, I like the First Amendment. I believe that once you label something hate speech, it grows and grows and grows. So I don't even use these. Like everyone today, Hunter Biden is a racist. Oh my God. Is Hunter Biden a racist or is he a crackhead? I don't think he's a racist. I'm not going to, oh my God, he said the N-word a million times. It's not smart, but does he hate black people? No, he probably smoked crack. And when you smoke crack, you start typing it's not what I would do. Well, I wouldn't smoke crack. So I don't know what I would do if I smoked crack because I never have smoked crack. But in general, it's like, The right's like the left overuses the word racist. They use the word racist too much. Hunter Biden's a racist. You're a racist if you don't like Tim Scott. You're a racist. Kamala Harris is a racist. Joe Biden's a racist. So he passed a crime bill. He's right. It's two sides. That word is a bad word. Obviously, there's people who are hateful. They have hate in their hearts. There's people who hate all people of a certain race. That's bad. But there's not that many people who feel that way. Most people are not like that. So using that word, I don't use that word, unless I'm joking or something. Everyone's like, oh, you're racist. I don't think Hunter Biden's a racist. I think he's a crackhead. I think when you smoke crack and you use the N, a lot of white kids use the N-word. They don't hate black people. In fact, they like black people and they're trying to act like, they're trying to act like they're good in the hood. So they're like, yo, what's up, my man? So it's like, I don't think it doesn't come from hate. And that might be a controversial take, but if you're like, I hate all those people, it's like, all right, dude, calm down. You're a little hateful. But if you're like, yo, what's up, my man? And it's like, did Hunter Biden hate the black? No, he was smoking crack so hard probably that he thought he was black. He probably, he probably looked down and, was a little miscolored and maybe he thought he was black. And, maybe I'm not making excuses for her, but it's like, The word racist is overused. The word sexist is overused. The word anti-Semitic is overused. It doesn't mean I hate. I was talking to someone recently and I was explaining, I'm like, the problem in LA is not that Jews are unsafe because they're Jews. The problem is LA sucks and it's just not safe as it used to be. That's the problem. It's not like, oh my God, Jews aren't safe anymore. It's like, nobody's really that safe anymore. So you got to go to a place that's not LA and you'll find out if you're Jewish, no one cares. Everybody will like you if you're a cool person. So it's like, yeah, that might be, oh my God, these anti-Semitic attacks are on the rise. Violent crime is on the rise because LA is not as safe anymore. Philly's not. If you're Asian lives matter. Get your grandparent out of San Francisco or Philly. It's like, these Asian neighborhoods that were once safe, they're not safe anymore in these cities. So either, it's not like Black people or white people are just targeting Asians. It's like, I think crime is getting worse because our country is incentivizing it and locking down and screwing with people. So it's like, Asian lives matter. We need to stop Asian hate. It's like the liberals who say that don't even understand why it's happening. It's like, we're going to stop Asian hate by defunding the police. Well, then Asians are going to get beat up more. It's like, it's not this whole thing. I'm not that fake. I don't have it in me to be like, oh my God, Asian lives matter, so I'm going to wear a shirt. Get your grandparents away from like high crime neighborhoods. That's key. Crime will go down. It's not like this conspiracy theory to hurt Asians. It's just like they're used to living in the city and the cities are getting crappier. That's what I think. Someone said, let's just say there's a lot of crazy around. Someone said, anomaly, you were being judged and compared to Greg Gutfeld. I mean, I don't know. Some people would think that's a compliment. Some people would think it's a diss. So people can compare me to who they want. I don't really care. Let me see. When will people let go? Or sorry, I'll read another comment. Thank you, Astute Nomad. I appreciate you. Someone says cities have always been violent and run down. Our cities are getting worse is all. And this is what I'm saying too. White lightning. I like that name. It just reminds me of lightning strike. But the cities are getting worse. As the cities get worse, so does everywhere. I mean, in my opinion, the pendulum swings and it's going to get less safe and less safe and less safe. That's why it doesn't really matter Trump, Biden. Like there needs to be a cultural shift. Like this game the right's playing, oh, we're not racist. You're a racist. You called Tim Scott an uncle, you know what? That's racist. That's right. This game is like my buddy sent me a text with a meme and it was like a tombstone and it said, here lies conservatism. And on the tombstone, it said, well, if it were the other way around, they'd be called a racist. Like it was mocking conservatives because every time something happens, they just said, well, if it were the other way around, like it was it's really funny, but it is true where it's like, yeah, people say, what's the solution? It's complex, but it's definitely not just being like, well, if they did it, they would be a hit. It's like, yes, exactly. They're hypocrites. But now what do we do? Because we can't keep chasing the tail of the left, chasing their narratives. We're always 20 steps behind. Eventually and that is really why people love Trump. I get it because he came through with solutions. Hey, build a wall and then stop illegal immigration. But when he got here, he was willing to cut a deal for amnesty. So it's like he said he was going to stop amnesty, but did he? I don't know. Did he stop? I don't think he did. I think he did exactly what Reagan did. No offense, but it's like eventually, I think someone's going to come along and everybody's going to come along and they're going to start talking about it because whether Trump's in office right now or Biden's in office, the cities are getting more dangerous. And as the cities get more dangerous, you could say, well, I live in a conservative area. If you're way out in the cut, you're probably good. But if you're in a conservative area near the city, you might see what I'm starting to see is that suburbs that used to be safer are not as safe anymore. There's more carjackings. There's more theft. There's more incidents than there used to be because crime is spreading out and people realize, well, the money's over there. Let me go where they are. So, it's not just that liberal cities are getting more dangerous. I think it's a bubble effect and anywhere near the city is getting more dangerous. And now it's growing. So it's not like I hate Trump. It's like I'm tired of playing this game of like, well, Hunter Biden said the N-word. It's like, yes, and in many ways, it's very funny. In other ways, it's very offensive to some people. I mean, if you read the text messages, dude, this guy's on one. He's out there saying it's actually really funny. If you can find the text messages, like he's just saying wild stuff. Like he must have been really off the you-know-whats. But anyway, at a certain point, it's funny and it definitely makes a good talking point. But, I think it would be great to see people be like, no, because I see the crime and the degeneracy growing, and it's starting to get in my way. Even if I try to move away, it then follows you. So I'm putting my foot down. I don't care if it's Trump. I don't care if it's Biden. I don't care if my mayor's Republican or Democrat. Like, I don't think they're doing enough. So I'm going to do my part. And then I'm going to, with my media source, I'm going to try to break the stories no one's breaking, say the things no one's saying, walk the walk, not just talk the talk. So it's like, that's what I want to do. Cause I hate seeing places get unsafe, for children, for elderly, for myself. I would love to see a cultural shift. And it's like Trump said, make America better, great again. But it just 4 years ended up in a lockdown. So we gotta run that back. I don't know. It didn't end properly. Someone said Norway passed the COVID passport. We have even with the, I don't want to harp on it too much, but even with what DeSantis did, what Trump did, we still lost ground. And I know people hate saying this, but it's like Florida lost ground. Florida lost this much ground. California lost this much ground. Domestic travel lost this much ground. International travel lost this much ground. Even cruises, even with the non-vaccine passport, they're still doing mask mandates. We have a long way to go if we want a free America. Like, conservatives love losing. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm tired of losing. I really am. So it's like when I see conservatives who are like, Florida's freer than ever. It's like, no, it's less free than it was in 2019. It's better than California. But if we want to, in my opinion, I don't want to wear a mask every time I go on a plane. I'm not wearing a mask on an airplane, on a cruise boat. I don't want to get tested to go to Europe. I don't want to have a vaccine to go to Norway. Like, to me, this is not free. And also, it's like, I want full freedom. Maybe I'm naive. Maybe I'm asking for too much, but it's like, I hear people like, oh man, we're free. It's like conservatives love to just lose and then I'm like, nah, I'm over it. I get it. It's fun, but someone said run for office. You don't have to run for office to make a change. You don't have to. When enough people stand up, it's the culture. They shifted the culture. They shifted the minds. In some case, they shifted the entire population, like literally. And that's how they shifted all this in, by shifting the mind. So if you want to change it back, it's going to take more than a Biden or Trump. I don't want to run for office, but I don't feel like I have to. When certain things I've done, and I'm not patting myself on the back, but no, I'm just kidding. I love seeing something that I did, or a seed that I've planted, or something that I've done, turn into something more. And it's got to come from the people. So if you run for office, you have a mouth, you can write bills, and that's helpful. But, I think that, and to me, that's the biggest thing that Trump did. Judges, maybe. We'll see how it goes. War, he helped a little bit, I think, definitely. But the biggest thing he really contributed to America wasn't even a policy. It was Trump's culture shift. And that I will never disrespect him on, because he definitely changed the course, and we could have easily had a Mitt Romney and just been screwed, with no option, like Canada. So that to me was like the biggest impact he had. It's not even the bills he passed. It's just him using that huge platform to really shift people. But that's my message today, is like, as we're shifting, don't get caught. I feel like we got to not get caught. Keep it moving. I'm going to read a few more comments and then I'm going to roll out. Thank you for joining. Appreciate y'all for being here. Someone said you're talking about the weak conservatives. I'm not trying to name names, but in my opinion, when I say this stuff, the conservatives who want to conserve things are like, finally someone's saying it. And the people who aren't, they're like, oh my God, I'm so mad. It's like, no, if you get it, yeah, it's like not every conservative's like that, but I feel like the people in charge put on a show and everybody thinks they're doing more than they're really doing. And then the base either gets lazy or complacent, where, yeah, of course, not every conservative's like that, but we just follow the leader. We follow the light like a cat. So it's like once the conservative and it's happening, the culture's changing. There's new faces, new voices, like, things that you haven't seen before. It's happening. There's definitely a change happening, but I'm just playing my part. And this is not just me as like, oh my God, run for office. I'm a citizen. You know what I'm saying? I come on here like you call your friend sometimes and you just start ranting and he says what he says and you say what I'm doing the same thing. I'm just broadcasting it to the internet, which probably isn't smart, but you know, in some ways it's worked out where it's like, I'm also a citizen. Yeah, I could run for office. I could do this. I've spoke at the school board. I've done this. I've done shows. I could quit tomorrow and try to just be a rock star, but it's like, I like doing this. But in general, I'm just a citizen. You know, this is my thoughts. And I think I can do something through media and music, just like, you know, people do through politics. So I'm more interested in teaching and learning myself and then sharing what I've learned to people, like going to school. Well, education, you know, we got to do education. That's what people always say I should be a teacher. I always wanted to be a teacher. And people tell me, oh, don't be a teacher. Don't be a teacher. Or, you know, maybe if you want to. And I feel like I'm doing that now. But I'm not this arrogant, like liberal teacher, like, oh my God, I'm so much smarter than everybody. It's not like an ego teaching. It's like, I'm teaching myself. You know, so many books and stuff I've read, I've made book reports on. It's not like, oh my God, I'm so smart. I'm like, no. I want you to see what I read because I just learned this yesterday. I didn't know it forever. And then I learn it and I show it. And those are some of my favorite videos. Some people complain, oh, and Emily's just writing Trump's. Guys, I've gotten millions of views on a Bill Gates, you know, How to Lie with Statistics book report. I've gotten 1 million views on a Carrie Mullis book, you know, who invented it. I'm writing book reports like I'm in school, getting millions of views on those. Of course, Trump helps media. He helps everybody. But it's like, I like teaching. I like learning. And then I like teaching. So, you know, if you want to change the world, change the minds of the masses, it's not just politics. It's got to come through education, culture, music, you know. I can't do everything. I could run for office, but I don't want to. I don't like politics. Did I see Tucker's interview of Charlie Kirk? I saw a clip of it on Twitter, but, you know, I'll check it out. To be honest, I'm not trying to be rude, but to me, Charlie Kirk is just annoying to me. I feel like he yells. He's just like loud. He's young, so, you know, God bless him. I know he's getting married. God bless him and his wife, but I'm not really a fan. I think he yells. I think he's arrogant. I think, you know, I lost a lot of respect for him when he started calling everyone anti-Semitic and racist because he couldn't debate them at his own events. And, you know, he changed his stance 2 years later and literally copied the stance of people he called racist. Like, to me, you know, I can't listen to him for that long. He really annoys me. But, you know, if it's worth watching, I'll check it out. But I'm not trying to be a hater. That's just how I feel personally. Someone said the main thing I like about Charlie is Turning Point's getting a lot of young people involved. They do a great job of registering kids for sure. You know, he definitely does a lot of work on college campuses. So I've always liked that about it, but I just don't like really it said a lot to me. And I'll give him credit for that. He got asked some very legitimate questions a few years ago about Israel, about speech laws, about homosexual relationships or whatever. Not him, but just like questions that are legitimate. Listen, I don't have to agree with you, but if you ask a legitimate question, I mean, I have to answer at some point if it's a question and answer. He not only couldn't answer, but he just smeared these kids, like banned them from events. Like I couldn't get down with that. So it's like, it's awesome that he's registering a bunch of young kids and it's very helpful, but it's also at a certain point where it's like, well, I don't know. Not trying to be mean, but where was TPUSA during the communist lockdown of America? When Trump locked it down and bipartisan, you have Michigan, you have all these states. Where was the big boom? You know, where were these big videos explaining mass testing and Operation War? Did TPUSA do anything? I'm not trying to be mean. I'm asking a question. Did he do I didn't see them do anything last year. The communist socialism sucks. I agree. I agree with Charlie Kirk. So socialism came to America in 2020 under Trump and McConnell and Pelosi. I can't think of a single video from anybody at Turning Point that was even remotely influential or helpful towards stopping communism in America. Maybe I missed it, but I just didn't see it. Mike said most people are plastic bags blowing in the wind. 80% follow a leader. Normies will never rise up and do anything. This ignores human nature as much as communism does. It's simply utopian. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Mike. I agree. Actually, that's a good point. Where I heard that recently, as far as there's like a 60-20-20 sort of thing, where it's like 20 people are stuck this way, 20 people are stuck this way, And then the average person is swayable, you know? So in some ways that's promising. It's like more people are not stubborn than most, but also, yeah, there's, you know, people like to follow somebody, I guess, but I guess that's just human nature for sure. I guess with my platform, it's just like, if that leader is following you off a cliff, I just suggest finding a new one, but to each their own. I'm going to read this real quick because this is going to be the 10,000th time I've debunked this. And then someone said, Trump didn't lock anything down. He gave power to the states. You're lying. All right, Jude, thank you for bringing this point up because it's not new. I've answered this probably 100 times since April. In order to shut anything down, in order to even do any of this, Trump had the executive order to ban travel, which he did. He banned travel from foreign countries, which is still in place today. I know people from Europe that can't see their families because of Trump's travel ban, not Biden's. And I'm not talking about with terrorist countries. I'm talking about Europe. And then he did the emergency order. The president's emergency order is very, very powerful. Trump signed that. Then Trump did 15 days to slow the spread. With that, Trump led the whole country and also, you know, pretty much laid out the guidelines for all the Republicans. If you're in the Republican Party, you listen to Trump. Hold on a second. My thumb is kind of hurting, but it's like, I might have to go in a second. My thumb is kind of hurting, but you know, you don't disagree with Trump when you're in the party. So when he's the leader and he kind of tells people to do that, then they listen. As far as the CARES Act that he signed, you should read that. A lot of this stuff is federalism. A lot of it is states' rights. I agree. But there are certain roles that he plays where he could have done other things. I'm not trying to play hindsight, but like, it would be a lie to say that Trump is solely responsible for the lockdown. It's all his fault. He did it. It's all him. That's a lie. It's not all his fault. But it's also a lie, I think, that, you know, Trump had zero part in it. If he would have really fought tooth and nail to keep it open, that it wouldn't have stayed open in a lot of places, because that's just not true either. So, I mean, you can find multiple debates I have, especially the one with Hotep Jesus, because he kind of brought up this stuff and I had dates and such. So in general, either one's not true in my opinion. Jude said you're lying. Well, thank you, Jude, for being here, because I think you're kind of proving my point. You know, so it's like an idol worship. Look up what an emergency signature does when he signs an emergency. See what happens. The CARES Act, which he signed and bragged about, look what's in there. So you got to understand, like, there are things that he signed, that he was involved in, that he was fully supportive in, that were very detrimental towards the freedom of this country, that he was specifically involved in. I don't understand. Like, do you think he can't do anything? Then why even be there? It's like, well, Trump's going to save my life. But at the same time, he has no power at all. So he has no power at all. Then why even vote for it? What's the point of even voting if he can't do anything? It's like, there's things that he did and there's things that he didn't do. There's things that he left up to states, but there's also things that he himself kind of put his pen on, you know, that if he didn't, it would have gone differently. He's the leader of all Republicans. If Republicans don't do what Trump wants to do, they're not going to have a long career. You have to follow the leader in the Republican Party, especially when Trump is this popular. So if Trump would have said, you know, we're not doing 15 days, we're not going to extend the lockdown past Easter, which he did, you would have had a lot more openings, but he didn't do that. So, I mean, I don't feel like talking about it that much, but if at this point, I've said it like 100 times, I don't want to spend that much time on it, because it becomes like a Groundhog Day where I have the same 5 debates with people who just don't listen. Someone said Anomaly used to have 1,000 in his chat room on his live videos like this. Now it's hundreds because Anomaly's wrong on Trump. Well, I don't really care about how many people tune in, but no, it's not a popular topic. If I have a good topic that I know is going to be popular, I could get 1,000. And you don't understand, I'm also on Facebook too. But it's not that. It's just I knew this topic wouldn't get that many views. I could do a different one and get a couple thousand. I'm getting more views on Instagram than I've ever gotten. I'm not hurting in viewership, but even if I was, not everything is going to be popular. That's true. So, like, I think the reason that people don't want to hear it is, one, it's a boring topic compared to like something that's like breaking news. And also people idolize this guy. So yeah, if you're going to crack their illusion that he was rescuing them from the lockdown, I could tell you every which way that he was involved in it, from the emergency order, from the CARES Act, from 15 days to slow the spread, from him flip-flopping on opening the country, and he extended the lockdown orders past Easter, and he organized and told all the Republicans to keep locking down. He bashed Sweden for opening up. He bashed Georgia when Governor Kemp tried to open up. He bashed them. He did Operation Warp Speed, and then he was just sat back and just played both sides of the fence until he lost the election. But I could point to specific things that he signed, emergencies that he signed off on, bills that kept the lockdown in place. But I don't think you're interested in that. I don't think you want to. I think you just want to pretend like he was fighting for the lockdown. He could have said, "No, we're not locking the country down," and then it would have been illegal. Do you realize if he doesn't sign an emergency order, it's not legal to do any of this stuff. It's not legal to rush out a vaccine this quickly. It's not legal to take away people's gym. It's not legal to shut down people's business. None of this stuff is legal unless you sign an emergency. Did only Democrats sign an emergency and no Republicans did? No, Trump signed the emergency. Trump gave the power to all of these states. Trump signed off on all of this stuff, but he's such a good talker that you guys think he was fighting it the whole time. This couldn't have happened if Trump wasn't in on it. If Trump was against it, he could have never signed the emergency order and took it right to the courts and sued them like Ron DeSantis sues the CDC, and everybody could have said this is illegal because it's not legal. But it is when you sign an emergency, which he signed. And then all of this mass testing, mass tracing, all of these things that are keeping you perpetually locked down because they're using a PCR test, Trump signed over on the CARES Act. He didn't oppose it. He signed it and yelled at Thomas Massie for calling it a scam. And then he extended the lockdown past Easter. And then he did Operation Warp Speed. And then he started putting on a show, and people think he had no part in it. It's not all his fault, but only in your head did he try to fight this the whole time. Only in your head did he not lock the states down. He doesn't have full say, but when push came to shove, he was on the wrong side of history. He was going around with Newsom, Murphy, Cuomo. If you go back in time, and I have videos on this in March and April, he's shaking Murphy's hand and pretty much being like, he's doing a good job. I'm giving them ventilators. Ventilators aren't even good, but Trump was the king of ventilators. I'm giving them ventilators. I'm giving them the power. And then a month later, he's like, oh man, they're abusing their power. They couldn't have even got it. You got what I'm saying? It's like a big spectacle. Like, give them money, give them power, pass the CARES Act, give them all the resources to shut and lock everyone down, sign the emergency order, give them all the power to do so, and then 2 months later complain that they have the power. It's the same with this email right here. And I got to go because my finger's hurting. I must have hit it or something. He signs this or he puts this email out and he says, perhaps I should have done it while I'm president, talking about going after big tech. He's in office for 4 years. He passes anti-Semitism, anti-free speech bills, does nothing about it. And then when he's out of office, he says, maybe I should have done something while I was in office. And people are going to be like, man, he's really fighting big tech. Come on, guys. I mean, if that's I'm not knocking him. It's not an easy job. But if that's the show you want to watch, you'll get it. Like, he's putting on a show. He's putting on a show. And you're convinced that oh my God, he really fought big tech hard. No, he didn't. He tweets about it. He writes it, but there's things he could have done. It would have been tough, but he just didn't do. It's okay. But this idea that he had no part in the lockdown, that's just not true. But I can't afford to, not money wise, but just have this conversation. If anybody's watched my channel since March, I've talked about it in March. We talked about it in April and May and June and July. I've said this, we've gone through this conversation so many times. Someone said, instead of idolizing man, we should idolize God. Well, yeah, I think that's the point that I was trying to make. Thank you, Native Mind 0311. Someone said, I gotta go because you're annoying. All right, well, Cliff, have a beautiful day, man. God bless you. But someone said ginger oil for the thumb. I'll figure it out. I think I just move too much when I'm live, and I can't really move too much. I'm going to read this real quick. TJ said, Anomaly, I'd like to bring something to your attention. You can be pretty hard on everyday people who, in my opinion, probably want all the very same things you want, but please remember something. Knowing what's going on in politics and society around the world is what you do for a living. You're doing excellent work, brother. This is why you have your finger on the pulse of all these characters and events, but most people simply can't dedicate that time required like you can. In order to truly be dialed into this world, it's a heck of a lot going on to be truly informed. So much going on. Be patient with these folks. They're catching up with you. You're helping them, but be kind. The angles you have come from, you see, may have not considered. God bless. Well, thank you. I think that's a lovely comment, and I think that's true. I would say, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I think I'm getting better, and I've always been pretty decent at it. There's always a lot left to be desired, but I feel like I'm pretty patient. I'm pretty calm. I mean, I've had this conversation 1,000 times, and I think a lot of these people, some people are brand new to the stream, but I think a lot of people aren't. Where, I'll say it again. I heard this same stuff from people. I've heard this so many times, but there's two different types of people. If you hear new information, you consider it and you want to hear it, or you don't. And that's, I mean, there's the old saying, you could bring a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, where it's like, it goes for me, it goes for anybody. Like, the information's out there. Not everyone can go scour the internet, but if you're watching my live streams, I would think at this point, that I'm pretty good at what I do, or else you wouldn't be watching. And you don't have to agree with everything I say, but if I explain these things and you just scream at me and say, no, you're lying, in my opinion, I don't think the problem is I'm not being patient enough. I think these people are not trying to hear it. So I could just ignore it, or I could be nicer for sure. I definitely agree. But in general, I mean, I've had the reason I don't just scour the internet all the time. I do other things too. Believe me, I take breaks, but it's like someone taught me this information. Like, I'm sitting here talking to other people. So other people taught me this information, and they didn't say it in the nicest way. In fact, they were way, way meaner than I was. They're way ruder than I was. But I want to learn, and I considered what they said, and I looked it up. Where some people, like, you got to understand, I could be patient, I could be calm, I could print out and do 15 videos where I calmly, quietly, nicely, kindly, respectfully, in the nicest way, explain how it happened, and they still wouldn't listen. And I know that because I know people like that. I love them to death, and I love people who watch me to death. But on one hand, of course, I could always be nicer. I could always be more respectful, and I'm always self-aware of, like, I could have said that better. I agree. But you got to understand your idea that, like, people they're too busy to read it. It's like, in some cases, that's definitely the problem. In other cases, people don't want to listen. I could literally spend a year trying to explain it in the most obvious way possible. And if they don't want to hear it, they don't want to hear it. And before I leave, that's what the whole stream was about today, whether it's Fauci or Trump. The whole stream was the idol worship. There's a difference between liking someone, voting for him, appreciating it, and worshiping him like an idol. And I think, to wrap up the stream, is I think the reason that people don't want to hear this about Trump is not that I'm not explaining it well. I don't think it's that I'm being too rude, or, I don't think it's that I'm being disrespectful. I think people idolize Trump and have replaced a godlike figure with him. So if you question it, it's equivalent to questioning Christ for a Christian, or Allah to a Muslim, where they freak out. I think that's kind of what my stream was about. So you can't change everybody's mind. I'm not trying to. I'm simply just putting out the information for people who are trying to hear, but not everyone wants to. So, I'll read, I guess, let's see what's going on in the comments. Jude said, I have to agree with your point about idol worship. Well, absolutely, Jude. And the point I'm trying to get to is, like, I understand you probably like Trump more than me. A lot of people who I've lost followers on Facebook. I don't really care because I'm almost at 1.4, 1.5 million, whatever. But, I've lost followers saying what I'm saying, but I don't care. I don't care if I lose half my audience. It's like, it's not going to happen. But in general, people like Trump more than me. I'm aware. I don't think I'm more special or anything. Like, people are way more loyal to Trump than they are me. That's fine. But my job, I'm not a bootlicker. I'm not just this is why people like me. They don't like me because I lick boots. They don't like me because I'm so far right and I just listen to everything they say. They like me because I don't lie, because I do reports that sometimes will crack through the matrix and get to the point that no one's saying. So if you want to believe that Trump had no part in the lockdown whatsoever, I would say it's not true, and you should look up some of the stuff I said. But if you want to believe that, that's on you. But I would say it's not true. But it's that's on you. And I have debates about it. I mean, it's kind of an annoying debate, but I think is interesting. On YouTube, I debated someone called Hotep Jesus, and if you watch, he spent the first half of the debate, the first 30 minutes, saying, Anomaly just sniffed Trump's butt. He was being very condescending, very rude. Anomaly, you milked Trump, and now you're turning on him. All these narratives that people try to say. Of course, he was wrong. He tried to pull up all these tricks. They didn't work. Of course, I knew what I was talking about. I had dates. I had facts. So he eventually just caved and said, well, actually, I knew Trump was a puppet all along. And how come you didn't? So it's like, I've had this debate with someone who knew his stuff, and I kind of wore him down and made him flip his stance completely. So you could watch, if you want to, the counter between me and someone else. And I'd even be willing to have it again. And to wrap it up, I'm going to be on Jesse Lee Peterson's show tomorrow. If you guys know Jesse Lee Peterson, amazing. He's an amazing guy. He's a fun guy. I'm going to be on his show tomorrow morning at like 7 or 7:30 Pacific time, 10 Eastern. So I'm guessing Jesse might ask me about this stuff. I don't know what he wants to talk about, but I'm guessing he might question me on some of this stuff. So if you want to, hear him counter me, because I'm sure he disagrees with me too, you could check that out. But look up the CARES Act, look up Operation Warp Speed, look up the extension, check out when Trump extended it past Easter. And in my opinion, these are things that, I think kind of prolonged it. But I'm not blaming him for everything. I'm not saying it's all his fault. I'm just saying, like, this idea that he had like zero role in it and he just left it to the states, I don't think that's really how it works completely. But in other ways, federalism is real, and the states, in many ways do run the show. But I do think that there were certain things that, moves that he made that really made it impossible for freedom to exist in a lot of places, including even, Texas and Florida for a while, where not just his leadership, but certain bills, like if you read the CARES Act, it's hard to, like, even now, it's so much deeper. I'm sorry for rambling, but it's so much deeper than just even DeSantis or Biden. Like the CARES Act alone, the incentivization, the testing, to me, the root of this is the testing. They're using PCR tests to mass test everybody. And then they're using those mass tests to say that they died from it, or they're using that test to say that you have to drop out of the PGA Tour because you tested positive for COVID. It's asymptomatic. The whole testing is the root of it. So it's like, until Trump or DeSantis, I'm not even blaming them, but they're passing these things that make testing everywhere and all this testing and all this incentivization. And then they're going, oh, well, we're fighting. It's like, in order to really take it out of the country, like it's got, that is like the root of a lot of the stuff. I think all of those bills that just put out trillions of dollars. And once you put out a bill that gives $10 billion or so to the pharmacy industry, it doesn't make them smaller, it makes them stronger. And now you're putting out these bills, that fund them and fund them. So all these agencies, all these industries, all these corporations, all these big Democrat things that hate your side of politics, they have now been given billions, trillions. I don't know where this money went. So it's like, it becomes even harder. It's like making the government smaller. In a year, Trump made the government bigger, I would say, than anybody. Like when you print that much money, you're not making the government smaller. In 2020, Trump was on the side of making the government more powerful than they've ever been. Not blaming him, not hating him, not saying he's a terrible person. I'm just saying when that happens, it's like eventually people, it's like it's a difficult road back, but it'll happen. I'm faithful. I'm grateful. I'm just saying, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm exhausted and I hurt my finger that's already broken. So I got to go. But I appreciate you guys. Appreciate the, the conversation, the debate, but I'm just throwing these things out there. And to be last, I don't think what I'm saying is super common. I mean, obviously I'm not the only one, but like, I don't think there's 1,000 Trump supporters who are saying this stuff. I think there's like none. So I think whether you get mad or not, it's good to at least consider it or at least hear it, even if you hate it, because, I don't see that much of it going on. So it's not like I'm just drilling it. I do repeat it too much, but it's like I'm just trying to toss that out there because I don't really see it that much. And, I think that, it's a helpful thing to think about, because that's all I'm talking about in this stream was like the idol worship. And when it goes from loving and voting and supporting someone to like a full-on religion where even simply questioning or standing up for yourself is like an act of betrayal, it becomes toxic. And I think conservatives, our problem is that people are so nice. I really do. I think conservatives are nice. I think they're agreeable. And I think that, conservatives just want to be left alone and they don't want to have to do too much because it's like a nice, it's a nice vibe. But I think, I don't think the Republican Party respects conservatives. And to be honest, as much as people like Trump, I think that he understands how much people love him. And I think he takes advantage of that sometimes because, he knows that he's so loved that he could literally do things that you don't agree with and people will make excuses for them. So that's all I'm trying to say is, I think when enough people realize that, even if it's 30, 40, 50%, the whole conversation shifts. And on that note, I think you have more power than you think you do as a taxpayer, as a citizen, and just as a person. Don't think you're so small that you don't matter. It's like, it's all a collection of people. And it's like, if you talk to someone else and that has an impact on them, things travel very quickly in the age of information. So that's what it is. That's hopefully the point got through clear. And thank you for the comment on Facebook too about being nicer, because it's always a good comment to read, because even though I try to be super nice, that's been a goal of mine the last month. Don't get upset, don't get annoyed, don't get angry, because there have been streams where I got super upset, and I'm over that now. So even like peak level me getting annoyed, I don't think it's that bad anymore, but it's always part of my goal. It's like, I got to be calmer, nicer, and friendlier, because for sure, you never know if someone just tuned in. You never know if they just, haven't heard it before, or it's new information. They don't have time to look it up. So, I try to be as thoughtful as I can be, but I fall short like everyone does sometimes. So appreciate y'all. Have a good day. And I'll be back soon, probably with a new video tomorrow. Maybe not. We'll figure it out. Someone said, we'll call you out next time if you'd like. I don't think I was being that mean, and I've heard it 1,000 times, but it's all perspective. I've definitely been meaner about it, but I've had this conversation so many times, but it is what it is. There's always a better way to put it. But Jorge, you could call me out whenever you like. I don't care. I like you, Jorge. You're one. You solidified yourself to legend status, bro. I see your name all the time, so I'll take it from you. God bless. Have a good one. I'll see you guys soon.